At first, my master only had the battle strength of a primary ruler, but after mastering this heaven suppression tablet, he was able to reach the level of a superior ruler in one leap. Such a precious treasure is naturally extraordinary, but I don't know what's so special about this heaven suppression tablet. With a trace of expectation, Jian Wushuang's consciousness immediately covered the nearly 30,000-meter-tall gray stone tablet in front of him. When his consciousness entered the heaven suppression tablet, Jian Wushuang instantly sensed the extremely mysterious secret patterns hidden in the tablet. Jian Wushuang could only sense these secret patterns, but he could not sense anything else. These secret patterns are so mysterious. Jian Wushuang knew that his strength was not weak, and he was definitely at the top of the divine beginning realm. However, when he saw the secret patterns in the heaven suppression tablet, he did not know what they were, so he could not see through them. However, Jian Wushuang knew that these secret inscriptions were probably the key to controlling the heaven suppression tablet. As Jian Wushuang carefully examined them, he began to display them. The secret inscriptions hidden in the heaven suppression tablet were roughly divided into 3 layers. Each of the 3 layers of secret inscriptions had a lot to do with the heaven suppression tablet. If I'm not mistaken, these 3 layers of secret inscriptions should be the method to control the heaven suppression tablet. I only need to comprehend the first layer of the 3 layers of secret inscriptions to be able to use the heaven suppression tablet normally. Jian Wushuang muttered. He had already understood the way to control the heaven suppression tablet. However, although he understood the way, the process was not that easy. After all, the secret patterns hidden in the heaven suppression tablet were indeed too profound and unfathomable. Jian Wushuang observed for a long time, but he did not have any clue. Master is a genius, but after I got the heaven suppression tablet, it took me a long time to slowly master the heaven suppression tablet. In other words, Master also spent a long time to comprehend the first secret pattern on the heaven suppression tablet. It takes me a long time to master the first level of the secret inscription. No rush. I'll take my time. Jian Wushuang smiled and sat down in front of the heaven suppression tablet with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes and began to fully comprehend the secret inscription on the heaven suppression tablet. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 10 days, Jian Wushuang was in a confused state because he could not see through the secret patterns. It was not until 10 days later that he could barely see through the secret patterns. Universal principles. There are universal principles in the secret patterns. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes with a hint of surprise. Under normal circumstances, only the legendary supreme experts were qualified to comprehend the supreme universal principles. However, it was still very difficult to comprehend them. Jian Wushuang was only a principles master now. Logically, he should have been able to come into contact with the universe principles. However, when he had completely refined the eternal chaotic world, the universe principles had come to him personally. At that time, the universe principles covered his body, giving him a chance to feel the universe principles up close. For a cultivator, that chance was simply a stroke of luck. Although he did not get any substantial benefits from the close contact with the principles of the universe, there were too many intangible benefits. For example, under normal circumstances, he would not be able to feel the existence of the principles of the universe from these secret patterns. However, because he had been in close contact with the principles of the universe before, he was able to feel them after 10 days of comprehension. That was why he could sense them. No wonder these secret engravings are so difficult to comprehend. It turns out that these secret engravings are derived from the universe principles. Jian Wushuang sighed softly. The universe principles were too extraordinary. It was not something that he could comprehend right now. Even though what Jian Wushuang encountered was not purely the universe principles, but the secret engravings that were derived from the universe principles, the difficulty of comprehending them was much lower than comprehending the universe principles directly. However, it was still too difficult for a principles master like Jian Wushuang. Fortunately, I have experienced it up close and come into contact with the universe principles. This at least gives me the possibility of comprehending it. Without that encounter, even if the heaven suppression tablet was placed in front of me, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, Jian Wushuang said. He knew that in order to comprehend the secret pattern in the heaven suppression tablet, he had to first be able to sense the existence of the universe principles inside. Jian Wushuang could sense it because of the opportunity he had last time, so he had the possibility to comprehend it. Without that opportunity, he could only watch helplessly. Strange. When Master got the Heaven Suppression Tablet, he was only a Principles Master. Logically speaking, he was also not qualified to touch the universe principles. However, he still mastered the Heaven Suppression Tablet in the end. How did he comprehend the secret inscriptions derived from the universe principles in the Heaven Suppression Tablet? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. After all, his master did not have the same opportunity as him, but he did not receive any universe principles from his master. However, Xianxia still managed to master the Heaven Suppression Tablet. In that case, Xianxia must have had other opportunities, and he must have come into close contact with the universe principles by chance. Now that I know the whole story, I only need to spend time to slowly comprehend it. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. He knew that it would be extremely difficult to fully comprehend the first level of the secret patterns of the Heaven Suppression Tablet. However, he had no choice. In order to master the Heaven Suppression Tablet, he had to spend a lot of time to slowly comprehend it, even if the process would be very long. The good news was that these secret patterns were derived from the universe principles. Jian Wushuang could gain a lot of benefits during the process of comprehending them. It was definitely unrealistic to comprehend a trace of the universe principles. However, during the process of comprehending, it would be helpful to improve his understanding of sword principle and the comprehension and application of various principles. This kind of help was certainly much better than using some special resources to cultivate. Jian Wushuang was completely immersed in comprehending the secret patterns in front of the Heaven Suppression Tablet under the ancient battlefield. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed. During these 30 years, Jian Wushuang had been immersed in comprehending the secret pattern and did not stop for a moment. Even so, his comprehension of the first level of the secret pattern was still very low. Could even be said that he did not comprehend it at all. At most, he had a little understanding and familiarity with this level of the secret pattern. He knew that he still had a long way to go before he could completely grasp the first level of the secret inscription. However, the 30-year deadline had already arrived. He had to stop first and complete the agreement made by Dishursan. The headquarters of the Seven-Star Mysterious Sect was once the headquarters of the Three Saint Realms. Although the territory had been destroyed due to the previous war, the aura of the war had gradually dissipated after 30 years of reconstruction. The place had returned to its former glory and glory. The Seven-Star Mysterious Sect was once recognized as the #1 ruler of the Divine Beginning Realm. Even the Three Saint Realms could only catch up to it. With the battle strength of 3 masters and the 7-star who stood at the top of the Principles Master, there were countless experts, and how glorious it was. Even though a large number of experts had died, there were still many top experts who stayed behind. With these experts as the foundation, the headquarters in the Divine Beginning Realm was in the best cultivation condition of the territory, and with the full support of Star Palace and Jian Wushuang, the 7-Star Mysterious Sect would regain its former glory. It was not impossible. For example, although only 30 years had passed, the 7-Star Mysterious Sect had gained a new status in the Divine Beginning Realm. Today, everyone in the 7-Star Mysterious Sect was watching. Many top experts of the 7-Star Mysterious Sect had gathered here. In the past 30 years, most of them had recovered and were now full of battle strength. In addition to the 7-Star Mysterious Sect, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, his 3 Palace Masters, Temporal Temple Master, Deputy Temple Master Bai Xing, Ba Cong, and many experts from the Heaven Ancestors bloodline had also arrived. They had come because of the sword principle battle between Jian Wushuang and Dishursan. Dishursan used to be a legend of sword principle in the Divine Beginning Realm. His sword principle was so powerful that even rulers were amazed. Jian Wushuang was a legend in the Divine Beginning Realm today. His sword principle was also extremely powerful. The sword principle showdown between the two of them was naturally very attractive to cultivators from various forces. On a calm lake, Dishursan carried the magic sword on his back and stood there calmly. He was clearly stepping on the lake surface, but there were no ripples under his feet. It was clear that he was extremely calm now. He did not have any strange emotions because of the upcoming battle. As for Jian Wushuang, he had also slowly walked over. His steps were deep and step by step, stepping through the void. Ripples spread out along with his steps. After a long while, he appeared in front of Dishursan. "You're here." Dishursan raised his head and looked straight at Jian Wushuang. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." Jian Wushuang smiled. The two exchanged a simple greeting as if they were old friends. In fact, they had a certain friendship. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were old friends. "Have you fully recovered to your peak condition?" Jian Wushuang asked. "More or less. Even if there are some differences, it won't affect the battle." Dishursan's voice was still as cold as ever. "Shall we begin?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded and said, "This fight is purely a competition of sword principle and swordsmanship. So, you and I will only use the power of an ordinary principles master. What do you think?" "No problem," Dishursan said. In terms of divine power, even 10 of them were no match for Jian Wushuang. Now that both of them controlled and only used the power of the ordinary principles masters, this undoubtedly made the fight fair. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. With a flip of his hand, a blood-red divine sword appeared in his hand. This sword is called the Blood Mountain Divine Sword. My master Xianxia personally refined it for me. Although it's not a universe supreme treasure, its power is very impressive. Moreover, it's extremely sharp and has the ability to suppress. Jian Wushuang said as he looked at the divine sword in his hand. He said slowly, "For the sake of fairness, Jian Wushuang would not take out the Netherworld Divine Sword, which was the strongest supreme treasure. He did not even plan to use a universe supreme treasure to fight with the Blood Mountain Sword. After all, the Blood Mountain Sword had been with him for the longest time, and he was the most familiar with it. With the Blood Mountain Sword, Jian Wushuang could perfectly display his sword principle and swordsmanship." Dishursan knew Jian Wushuang's intention and immediately took out a Saiyan divine sword. "This sword is called Moon Cutting. It used to be with me for a long time. It's also not a universe supreme treasure, but its power is not weaker than the Blood Mountain Sword in your hand." "Very good." Jian Wushuang smiled and the two looked at each other. The next moment, whoosh, whoosh, the two figures moved at the same time. "It's starting. The battle has finally begun. One is a legend of sword principle, and the other is a new legend of the invincible divine beginning realm. Who is stronger and who is weaker in the battle of sword principle? It's hard to say who is stronger and who is weaker. After all, their understanding of sword principle has exceeded the scope of the divine beginning realm and reached a new level. But I'm sure that this battle will be extremely exciting." The surrounding experts watched the battle with anticipation. They also focused their eyes on the void in front of them, afraid of missing out on the details of the battle. Under the gaze of countless experts, Jian Wushuang and Dishursan finally fought head-on. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless sword lights burst out at the first moment. The place where the two men exchanged blows turned into a sea of sword principle in an instant. In this sea of sword principle, Jian Wushuang and Dishursan's figures flashed one after another like two ghosts, making it difficult to see clearly. Each flash was accompanied by a large number of sword lights. These sword lights were displayed by the two men at the moment their figures flashed. In this flash, the two men had exchanged dozens of sword skills. That was why every time they flashed, a large number of sword lights would appear. So fast! They actually unleashed so many sword lights in that instant? It's too fast. These two sword techniques are too fast. The surrounding spectators exclaimed in surprise at the first moment. Even the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, and Xianxia, these three rulers, could not help but exclaim in admiration when they saw the scene before them. Both of them didn't use their absolute arts or any sword techniques at the first moment. They were purely using their swords. They were just competing in speed, the Temporal Temple Master said. "It's not that simple." The leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance shook his head. "It might seem like a simple speed competition, but in reality, The sword techniques that the two of them casually used contained the universe origin of the sword Dao. That universe origin of the sword Dao greatly increased their sword technique speed. Therefore, in this speed competition, they were actually competing to see who had the highest comprehension of the universe origin of the sword Dao. You're right. If they hadn't fused the universe essence of sword Dao into it, they wouldn't have been able to instantly unleash such terrifying speed with the power of an ordinary principles master. Xianxia nodded as well. The two of them are only at the beginning. Right now they are just testing the waters, but even so, this scene is still quite shocking. The temporal temple master laughed. These rulers were powerful and had high standards, so they were able to see many things. They knew that Jian Wushuang and Di Shisan were just testing the waters and had not really done anything yet. Even so, the flashing figures and the sword shadows that burst out in an instant still shocked the surrounding spectators. Both of them only used the power of ordinary principles masters, but after activating the universe origin of sword principle, their terrifying swordsmanship was still beyond the power of ordinary principles masters. Clang, 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 clang. Dozens of clashing sounds rang out, and Jian Wushuang and Di Shisan finally separated. Jian Wushuang, it seems that I have underestimated you. I thought that you had just reached the 4th level of sword principle, so you should not have a deep understanding of the universe origin of sword principle. You should only have a little understanding. I didn't expect that your understanding of the universe origin of sword principle has reached a certain level. You are not inferior to me at all. Di Shisan stood there with a rare look of excitement on his cold face. This kind of excitement was only possible when one met a real opponent. The same goes for you. You are indeed the first person in the divine beginning realm to step into the 4th level and master the origin of the universe of sword principle. Your understanding of the origin of the universe of sword principle was already so amazing when the 7-star mysterious sect was destroyed. If it weren't for the fact that you were in a deep sleep later on, with your talent in sword principle, your comprehension of the origin of the universe of sword principle would have already reached a new level that I can only look up to. Jian Wushuang also praised. Both of them had tested each other's comprehension level of the universe origin of sword principle. Obviously, their comprehension level of the universe origin of sword principle was about the same. Because of this, the two of them were evenly matched in the test fight, and there was no difference in the speed of their swordsmanship. In fact, only Jian Wushuang knew that the reason why he could be evenly matched with Di Shisan was mainly because he had been comprehending the secret inscriptions in the Heaven Suppression Tablet for the past 30 years. It was extremely helpful to his sword principle, which deepened his comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle. However, if he had not made progress in the past 30 years and fought with Di Shisan at his peak 30 years ago, his comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle would definitely be inferior to Di Shisan's. Jian Wushuang, I already know the level of your comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle. What I want to know next is your attainments in swordsmanship, Di Shisan said. I'm looking forward to it too, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. In that case, I'll draw my sword. Di Shisan's face was cold, but the sword in his hand suddenly burst out with a bright light. The light was like a huge sun. It was vast and majestic. Countless powerful sword essences were completely condensed in the sun. Di Shisan drew his sword. He did not move. He just pointed the sword in his hand in the direction of Jian Wushuang. In an instant, the huge sword essence sun swept out. When it appeared in the void where Jian Wushuang was, it directly exploded. Buzz, 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 buzz. Countless solemn and cold sword shadows formed a huge sea of sword essence in an instant. The sea of sword essence covered the sky and covered the earth. For a moment, it crazily pressed down on Jian Wushuang from all directions. It was like an extremely powerful sword principle domain. In this sea of sword essence, Di Shisan was like the master of sword principle. The two of them are finally getting serious. Heaven-cleaving alliance master, who was watching the battle, said, "Watch carefully." Temporal Temple Master also revealed an expectant look. Jian Wushuang, who was completely covered by the sword principle domain, was surprised when he saw the scene around him. This move is so familiar. He knew this move. In his previous life, He had encountered a crisis in the eternal chaotic world. When he faced the Blood Emperor from the Blood Clan, Xianxia had fought with him and used the same move. However, because he was in the eternal chaotic world and was restricted by the heavenly Tao, Xianxia only had the strength of a half-step divine devil. The power of this move was probably less than 1/1,000,000th of its original power. Until now, Xianxia's strength had recovered to its peak. Without any restrictions, the true power of this move had been fully displayed in his hands. The sword essence ocean that was rampantly charging toward Jian Wushuang was like a tidal wave. Even Jian Wushuang could not help but exclaim in surprise. "It's just the impact of the sword essence ocean?" Jian Wushuang frowned. No, it shouldn't be so simple. Although the sword essence impact in front of him was terrifying and would affect his strength to a great extent, judging from the power of the sword essence ocean, this sword was not so simple. And it was true. "Jian Wushuang, take my sword." Emperor's sword. Xianxia glanced at Jian Wushuang and slashed out with the divine sword in his hand. It seemed to be an ordinary sword, but the moment it was slashed out, a dazzling sword light swept out. The sword light was so dazzling that it could cause damage to the eyes of ordinary cultivators. The dazzling light instantly made it the focus of the world. It was as if this sword was the only thing left in everyone's eyes. An absolute art at the ruler realm? Jian Wushuang's expression was calm. He saw that this sword was extraordinary, but he was not afraid. His body swayed, and a violent force was released instantly. Peerless Sword Manual, Xianxia. The cold sword light suddenly slashed down with endless violent intent. In the blink of an eye, it collided with the dazzling sword light. Both were ultimate skills at the ruler realm, and the power they used was exactly the same. Even their comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle was almost the same. The two sword lights disappeared almost at the same time. Xianxia, is your swordsmanship only at this level? Jian Wushuang looked at Xianxia. Xianxia merely glanced at Jian Wushuang and did not say anything. However, he struck out with his divine sword again. Xianxia attacked again, but this time, hua, 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 hua. One after another, dazzling sword lights whistled out. Each sword light was so dazzling and eye-catching. Each sword light was so tyrannical. However, there were dozens of such sword lights from Xianxia's hands. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. The spectators were shocked when they saw the sword essence from Xianxia's hands. How could this be? Those sword skills are so powerful. I feel that every sword move is an absolute art at the ruler realm. He has used so many absolute arts at once? Everyone was shocked. An absolute art at the level of a ruler was extremely powerful. It was not easy to use an absolute art at this level. Even though Jian Wushuang's comprehension of sword principle was very high, and he had even created an advanced level 7 absolute art, he still had to use an elementary level 7 absolute art one sword at a time. Unlike Xianxia, he used dozens of sword lights in one breath, each of which was comparable to an absolute art at the ruler realm. It's because of this sword principle domain. Jian Wushuang's face darkened, but he was not afraid at all when he saw the sword lights coming at him. He moved his body to meet them and waved the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. Clang, 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 clang. A series of clashing sounds rang out as Jian Wushuang blocked the dozens of sword lights. However, they were all absolute arts at the ruler level. It was very difficult for Jian Wushuang to block them. After dozens of collisions, he was forced to retreat a great distance. Seeing this, Xianxia's eyes were still cold. Then he waved his hand again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. One after another, dazzling sword light swept out like a storm. The onlookers were completely stunned by this scene. They did not expect that Xianxia could use a sword skill at the ruler realm so easily. It was as if he could do it with ease. Jian Wushuang's eyes darkened, and then a shocking sword essence burst out. This sword essence was filled with hatred that would not rest until death. An absolute art at the level of a ruler. It was also an offensive sword art, but it was much more powerful than the one created by Jian Wushuang. If the move was the most common level 7 absolute art, then the move would not rest until death was the best level among the level 7 absolute arts. Boom! With a violent boom, a huge hole was blasted open in the void. In the hole, a terrifying power swept out with a hatred that would not rest until death. It swept in all directions and instantly crushed all the brilliant sword lights unleashed by Di Shisan. Jian Wushuang also took a step forward and appeared in front of Di Shisan. Whoosh! The violent power and endless flames rose in an instant. It was an advanced level 7 skill, star fire burning the sun. Boom! It was like a volcano that had been silent for hundreds of millions of years suddenly exploded. This sword attack contained extremely terrifying power and completely exploded in front of Di Shisan. Seeing this, Di Shisan's expression was still very calm. The moment the sword light slashed over, the long sword in his hand was stretched out straight. Hidden sword. The two words were light, but there was a unique sword essence sweeping up. At this moment, the void where Di Shisan was seemed to have begun to undergo a huge change. It was clearly a vast void, but it suddenly formed a storm eye. A terrifying vortex-like eye with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters appeared. The terrifying thing was that the eye of the storm was completely formed by sword essence. Jian Wushuang's sword skill, which contained explosive power, displayed its full power in the eye of the storm. However, it was completely destroyed by the power contained in the eye of the storm in a moment. There was nothing left. Buzz! With the change of sword essence, the huge vortex-like eye of the storm suddenly disappeared. Di Shisan appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again with a calm expression. Even though he took Jian Wushuang's terrifying sword attack head-on, there was no change at all. Obviously, Jian Wushuang's sword attack had been easily blocked by Di Shisan. Not only did he not suffer any damage, but he did not even take a step back. How could Di Shisan not move after receiving Jian Wushuang's most powerful sword attack 30 years ago? What a terrifying sword art! It actually weakened the power of the starfire burning sun in an instant. Di Shisan, you actually created such an amazing defensive sword art. Jian Wushuang stared at Di Shisan in shock. Jian Wushuang, your sword art is indeed very powerful. At least in terms of attack and killing, the explosive power of your sword art is far greater than my most powerful sword attack. However, sword principle is not just about attack and killing power, Di Shisan said calmly. Do you know the difference between you and me? In terms of swordsmanship, I have created a complete swordsmanship system. With the sword world as the core, my swordsmanship evolved into the Emperor sword, which can continuously attack, and the hidden sword, which can defend against all kinds of attacks. In addition, there are all kinds of swordsmanship that can be used to tie down enemies and instantly kill them. This is a complete swordsmanship system. It can be used to attack, defend, advance, and retreat. It also complements each other. In fact, in this sword world, the consumption of my swordsmanship is very low. However, your swordsmanship is different. Although your swordsmanship includes all aspects, all of these aspects are used to attack and kill. In other words, your swordsmanship only pursues attacking and killing, but in terms of defense, advance, and retreat, you are far inferior to me. Today's battle, you are in my sword world. Even if you use all your swordsmanship, you can't break my hidden sword. But against my swordsmanship, you don't have any means of defense. Therefore, you will definitely lose this battle. Di Shisan's expression was still extremely cold, but his words were full of absolute confidence. He was indeed full of confidence in his swordsmanship system. It was because of this that he was so confident that he could defeat Jian Wushuang in sword principle. It turned out that his confidence was not groundless. In the short exchange just now, Jian Wushuang had already used an advanced level 7 secret skill. It should be the strongest move that Jian Wushuang had created, however, he still could not break his hidden sword. As long as he could not break his hidden sword, Di Shisan would be invincible in the sword world. A complete swordsmanship system? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. Once upon a time, he also wanted to create a complete swordsmanship system. Therefore, there was the later Peerless Sword Manual. However, as Di Shisan said, the Peerless Sword Manual was full of offensive swordsmanship, but it did not even have a single defensive swordsmanship. It was indeed incomplete. On the other hand, Di Shursan's swordsmanship was based on the sword world, which evolved into the Emperor Sword and the Hidden Sword, which could be used for both offense and defense. The sword world itself was equivalent to the realm of swordsmanship. At that time, the impact of the Sea of Sword essence had always affected Jian Wushuang. In addition to what Di Shursan had said, his swordsmanship was indeed a complete system. Moreover, this swordsmanship system was like a magic array. It could complement each other, attack and defense, and advance and retreat at the same time. This swordsmanship was indeed powerful. Di Shursan, who was once known as the #1 sword principle genius in the divine beginning realm, was finally experienced by Jian Wushuang today. There were many aspects in his opponent's swordsmanship that he could not compare with. And this was because he had made great progress in sword principle and swordsmanship over the past 30 years by comprehending the secret inscriptions in the Heaven Suppression Tablet. Otherwise, he would have been defeated by Di Shursan in the contest of sword principle. Di Shursan, I'd like to see whether your swordsmanship system is really complete and whether it's really that powerful. Jian Wushuang licked his lips and attacked again in the next moment. Whoosh! 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 Sword light flashed and activated the universe origin of sword principle. On the battlefield, Jian Wushuang had displayed his swordsmanship to the fullest. He had displayed the several sword skills in the Wushuang Sword Manual, Purple Charm, Sword Rainbow, and other sword skills he had created in that special space and time, as well as Starfire Burning Sun, a 7th-level advanced absolute art created by Jian Wushuang. He attacked again and again, trying to break through Di Shursan's hidden sword while fighting against the Emperor 13 Emperor Sword. Unfortunately, Di Shursan's hidden sword seemed to be integrated with the entire sword world. This sword technique was almost flawless. Even Starfire Burning Sun could not move the hidden sword, and Jian Wushuang's other sword techniques could not break it either. On the other hand, Di Shursan's Emperor Sword did not seem to be very powerful, but the key was that it was easy for him to use it. With a casual attack, dozens of sword lights and dozens of Emperor Swords slashed at Jian Wushuang at the same time, which brought great trouble to Jian Wushuang. There was also the Sea of Sword essence that was constantly being attacked. During the battle, Di Shursan even performed several other sword skills derived from the sword world, and one of them was extremely powerful. It was not much weaker than Jian Wushuang's Starfire Burning Sunday. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Jian Wushuang was at an absolute disadvantage. It was normal. As long as he could not break the hidden sword, Di Shursan would be invincible from the very beginning. As expected of Di Shursan, his self-created sword technique system can be attacked from afar and defended from close range. Moreover, it is impeccable. Even Heavenly Sword Marquis could not do anything against Di Shursan's sword technique in the sword world. In fact, Heavenly Sword Marquis swordsmanship is already very powerful and terrifying, especially that sword that suddenly erupted like a raging fire. Its power is really terrifying, and it is so powerful that it is suffocating. However, even that sword can't break through Di Shursan's hidden sword. This Di Shursan, I don't know how he created this swordsmanship. It's really too powerful. The surrounding spectators all praised him. They could see that Jian Wushuang was at a disadvantage in this battle. However, they did not feel that Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was weak. It was because Di Shursan's swordsmanship system was too powerful and too abnormal. Even the rulers sighed secretly when they saw the scene in front of them. It seems that the winner is decided, Xianxia said with a smile. What a pity. The leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance side. Actually, in terms of comprehension of the Sword Dao universe origin, Heavenly Sword Marquis isn't any weaker than Di Shursan. However, in terms of the sword techniques created by both sides, Di Shursan is still slightly stronger. If it was a head-on battle, our little friend Heavenly Sword Marquis wouldn't be any weaker than Di Shursan. In fact, he might even be a little stronger. Unfortunately, Di Shursan has already created a complete sword technique system and is almost invincible in the sword world. With the same level of power, our little friend Heavenly Marquis really can't do anything about it. The Temporal Temple Master added, It's normal for him to lose. After all, Di Shursan has been passed down since the era of the 7-star mysterious sect. Moreover, Di Shursan has stayed at the level of a principal's master for a very long time. He has been studying the way of the sword for a very long time. That's why he was able to create this complete sword technique system. As for Heavenly Sword Marquis, the time he has spent practicing is still too short. Moreover, he hasn't grasped the origin of the universe of Sword Dao for too long. He still has a long way to go in terms of sword techniques. However, it's only a matter of time before he surpasses Di Shursan in the future. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said. I hope this battle won't be a big blow to the Heavenly Sword Marquis. The Temporal Temple Master sighed. Among the three rulers, Xianxia was the only one who was better, but the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master felt it was a pity. They actually hoped that Jian Wushuang could defeat Di Shursan in this battle. But the reality was, Jian Wushuang, you can't break my hidden sword. Admit defeat. On the battlefield, Di Shursan stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold expression. From the beginning to the end of the battle, Di Shursan appeared extremely calm. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang had been forced into a sorry state by Di Shursan's swordsmanship. Moreover, Jian Wushuang had never been able to break Di Shursan's hidden sword. Therefore, in many people's eyes, the outcome of the battle was already decided. However, after hearing Di Shursan's words, Jian Wushuang smiled. Di Shursan, the swordsmanship system that you created really impressed me and gave me a lot of inspiration. I didn't expect that swordsmanship could form such a complete system. It could even evolve on its own and complement each other. I have to thank you for teaching me a lesson. However, it's unlikely that you want me to admit defeat so easily. Oh, Di Shursan looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Jian Wushuang still did not recognize the current situation. Could it be that he still had some trump cards in sword principle that he had not used? Di Shursan, I admit that if I fought you 30 years ago, I would never be your match. But now, I might not be your match. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Do you have a stronger sword skill? Di Shursan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Jian Wushuang smiled in tacit agreement. It was true that the strongest sword skill he had created 30 years ago was Starfire Burning Sunday. However, in the past 30 years, he had been comprehending secret inscriptions under the Heaven Suppression Tablet and had made great progress in sword principle. Therefore, he had made a great breakthrough in sword skill. Now, he had indeed created a sword art that was far stronger than the spark burning the sun. Di Shursan, take this sword of mine. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and the Blood Mountain sword in his hand glowed with a faint blood-red light. He held the Blood Mountain sword with both hands and raised it high. Suddenly, a large amount of sword principle universe origin seemed to be attracted by it and surged toward him. Jian Wushuang's sword was still in the process of brewing. However, the process of brewing shocked everyone present. Does Heavenly Sword Marquis really have a stronger swordsmanship? It seems so. Just looking at the process of brewing, the power of his sword is extraordinary. The surrounding spectators were staring at the scene. As for Di Shursan, his expression was still cold as he stared at Jian Wushuang. It's useless. Your comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle is similar to mine. The sword skill that you can create with this level of comprehension is at most at the advanced level of level 7. With this level of sword skill, you won't be able to break my hidden sword. Oh really? Jian Wushuang smiled non-committally. Then, the Blood Mountain sword in his hand finally fell down. Whoosh! The sword slashed out, and the void turned into chaos. There was no sound of explosion or air explosion. At this moment, the sword that Jian Wushuang slashed out did not seem to have any terrifying power. However, when the divine sword fell, a cold sword light mercilessly cut through the space, mercilessly tearing apart everything in front of it, and mercilessly slashing toward Di Shursan. If the 7th level advanced skill, Starfire Burning Sun, which Jian Wushuang had created before, was extremely violent and had a shocking burst of power in an instant, then the sword he was using now was cold and merciless. This cold and merciless sword seemed to be able to cut through everything in its path. No one, no matter what, could withstand its sharp edge. The name of this sword was Fallen Yellow Spring. The sword landed on the road to the Yellow Spring. This sword should have been performed more appropriately by the Netherworld Divine Sword. But now, because it was only a contest of sword principle, Jian Wushuang could display its tyrannical power with the Blood Mountain Divine Sword. The onlookers were shocked when they saw the cold and merciless sword light, which seemed to be able to cut through everything. What a terrifying sword! This sword is too powerful. Even though it is far away from us, I can still feel the invincible power contained in this sword. This sword is indeed stronger than the sword technique that Heavenly Sword Marquis used previously. I wonder if Di Shursan can block it. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation as they stared at the battlefield. Everyone was staring intently, afraid that they would miss even a single scene. In the middle of the battlefield, the cold and merciless sword light that was invincible had already appeared in front of Di Shursan. Di Shursan's expression did not change at all. Hidden sword. As Di Shursan's voice fell, the terrifying vortex-like eye of the wind that was over 1,000 meters in diameter appeared once again. The eye of the wind still contained the power to kill everything. It was enough to neutralize any attack. Previously, no matter what sword skill Jian Wushuang used, he could not defeat the eye of the wind even with the Starfire Burning Sunday. Instead, the power of the sword skill was completely neutralized by the eye of the wind. With this move, Di Shursan was almost invincible in the sword world. Now, Di Shursan was using the same move. The difference was that he was facing Jian Wushuang's Fall of the Yellow Spring, which could cut through all obstacles in front of him. Chi! There was still no loud explosion. The cold and ruthless sword light swept into the center of the eye of the wind, producing only the sound of energy colliding with each other. Originally, everyone thought that this cold and ruthless sword light should be gradually destroyed by the eye of the wind like before. However, suddenly, bang! The entire wind eye suddenly emitted an intense rumbling sound. Immediately, countless sword intent violently rose. This sword intent vortex wind eye also lost its previous balance and directly became chaotic. At the very center of the wind eye, that icy cold and merciless sword light erupted with a bright light. Crash! The entire wind eye was completely shattered. The sword essence in the sky scattered crazily in all directions. What? Di Shursan finally revealed a look of shock. The confidence in the depths of his heart had disappeared the moment the eye of the storm was shattered. He had thought that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the origin of the universe of sword principle was similar to his, and that the sword skill he could create was at most at the advanced level of level 7. It was not very strong. It turned out that Jian Wushuang's Sword of the Underworld was indeed only at the advanced level of level 7. However, he had never expected that this sword would directly destroy his hidden sword. The universe principles. There is a trace of the aura of the universe principles in this sword. Di Shursan's body trembled and his pupils dilated. The moment the sword essence wind eye dissipated, he sensed a trace of special aura contained in the cold and ruthless sword light. Although he had never come into close contact with that extremely special aura, he had at least sensed it before. It was the aura of the supreme universe principles, which could only be possessed by the universe principles. There was actually a trace of the aura of the universe principles contained in Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. This was simply incredible. Compared to Di Shursan's shock, Jian Wushuang appeared very calm. There was also a faint smile on his face. In the past 30 years, I've been studying the secret inscription under the Heaven Suppression Tablet. The secret inscription was derived from the universe principles, and the aura of the universe principles was extremely rich. When the universe principles descended, I also came into close contact with the universe principles. Because I came into close contact with them and had the opportunity to comprehend them, I was able to grasp a trace of the aura of the universe principles with the help of the universe principles in the secret inscription. Although the aura of the universe principles is very weak and insignificant, it comes from the supreme universe principles. I integrated it into my swordsmanship and created this move. That's right. Di Shursan's hidden sword is very impressive. Ordinary advanced level 7 absolute arts can't break his hidden sword, but a sword art containing the aura of the universe principles is enough to break his hidden sword. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. The aura of the universe principles was only a trace of the aura of the universe principles, not the real universe principles. Under normal circumstances, only supreme experts were qualified to comprehend the universe principles and grasp a trace of the universe principles. But if it was just the aura of the universe principles, a ruler realm cultivator. But it can be mastered. Now, Jian Wushuang had just grasped the breath of the universe principles. Chi. After the sword will wind I was shattered. The cold and merciless sword will wind I didn't completely disappear. Instead, it carried extraordinary power and directly slashed at Di Shursan's body. The sword light finally dissipated, but the world completely fell silent. Around the battlefield, countless experts looked at the scene in front of them, and their eyes flashed with intense shock. Di Shursan's hidden sword has been broken? His swordsmanship system has been defeated by Heavenly Sword Marquis? Has he lost? A series of shocked voices sounded one after another. Jian Wushuang stood in the void with a sword in one hand and stared at Di Shursan. Di Shursan looked at the white mark on his supreme treasure armor with a trace of disbelief in his eyes. But soon, Di Shursan's expression calmed down. He raised his head again and looked at Jian Wushuang with a rare smile on his face. Jian Wushuang, you've won this battle. He had won. This battle was indeed Jian Wushuang's victory. Everyone saw that Jian Wushuang's strongest sword attack had directly destroyed Di Shursan's swordsmanship system and slashed at Di Shursan's body. Although this sword attack did not cause much damage to Di Shursan, it was able to defeat his swordsmanship system. This meant that Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was stronger than Di Shursan's. Di Shursan had lost and was completely convinced of his defeat. The swordsmanship system you created is indeed very impressive. If I hadn't had some special opportunities over the years and made great progress in swordsmanship, I would definitely not be your opponent. Jian Wushuang also praised. He sincerely praised Di Shursan. Whether it was his understanding of swordsmanship or the swordsmanship system he created, Di Shursan was indeed amazing. In particular, the swordsmanship system had given him a lot of inspiration. If he had not been able to infuse a trace of universe principles aura into his swordsmanship by chance, he would not have been able to defeat Di Shursan in swordsmanship. Therefore, a sword principle expert like Di Shursan was naturally worthy of Jian Wushuang's respect. A loss is a loss. There is no other reason. From today onwards, you are truly the strongest in the divine beginning realm with the strongest sword principle. Di Shursan said. Although he had lost, there was not a hint of disappointment in his words. On the contrary, there was a hint of joy in his voice. It was obvious that he hoped that Jian Wushuang could defeat him in sword principle. The reason was because he had been invincible in sword principle for a long time. The so-called loneliness of an expert was precisely because he had always been invincible. That was why he longed for someone to challenge his position and even defeat him in sword principle. However, no one had been able to do so for a long time. Because of this, he could not find an opponent in sword principle and felt extremely bored. But today someone had done so. Jian Wushuang had used sword principle and defeated him fair and square. This actually made him feel a sense of relief and at the same time, a sense of joy from the bottom of his heart. In addition, there was another reason. It was because Jian Wushuang was carrying the hope of the entire divine beginning realm. Only Jian Wushuang could free the divine beginning realm from the control of Devil Cloud Star Master. And only he could restore the divine beginning realm to normal operation. Therefore, Jian Wushuang's strength was crucial to the divine beginning realm. Now, seeing that Jian Wushuang's attainments in sword principle were so high and that he had even incorporated a trace of the universe's principles into his swordsmanship, Di Shursan was amazed and happy that Jian Wushuang was so strong. The stronger Jian Wushuang was, the greater the hope of representing the divine beginning realm. When the surrounding experts heard Di Shursan say that from today onward, Jian Wushuang was the strongest in sword principle in the divine beginning realm, they were all shocked. Then, countless eyes filled with respect and admiration looked at Jian Wushuang. In the void next to him, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, and Xian Yan also rushed over. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are indeed powerful to defeat Di Shursan in sword principle, Xian Yan said. He did not like Jian Wushuang at first, mainly because of Xian Yi. However, because of Jian Wushuang's astonishing strength, he changed his attitude toward Jian Wushuang. Now that Jian Wushuang had defeated Di Shisan in Sword Principle, even he could not help but exclaim in admiration. He was well aware of Di Shisan's attainments in Sword Principle. Di Shisan's talent in Sword Principle had once terrified him. But now, Jian Wushuang's talent in Sword Principle was clearly stronger than Di Shisan's. You're so young, and you're only a Principle's master, but you've already grasped a trace of the aura of the universe's principles. This is incredible. Marquis Jian, I look forward to your growth in the future. The heaven-cleaving Alliance Master's eyes flickered with a rich light. He stared at Jian Wushuang. You're welcome. Jian Wushuang smiled and looked around. Today's battle has come to an end. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Jian Wushuang did not stay any longer. He had been immersed in studying the first layer of the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet. It was only because he had made an agreement with Di Shisan that he stopped the shocking Sword Principle battle. But now that the battle was over, he naturally had to return to the eternal chaotic world to study the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet again. After all, the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet was too profound. Even though it was only the first level, he had not been able to enter the rudiments even after spending 30 years. After Jian Wushuang left, the spectators also dispersed. However, after this battle, Jian Wushuang's title of the strongest sword principle in the divine beginning realm was completely confirmed. And the original title was Di Shisan's. Although Di Shisan was defeated by Jian Wushuang, he did not suffer the slightest blow. On the contrary, because of Jian Wushuang's last sword strike that carried the aura of universe principles, and because he was defeated by Jian Wushuang in sword principle, it had actually caused a great impact on his heart. This impact made the bottleneck that he had been stuck at for countless years begin to loosen up. Di Shisan had also benefited greatly from this battle. Therefore, after this battle ended, Di Shisan immediately began his closed-door cultivation. In front of the Heaven Suppression Tablet in the eternal chaotic world, Jian Wushuang sat down cross-legged again. I didn't expect that just a trace of the aura of the universe principles could improve the power of my swordsmanship to a whole new level. I wonder how strong I will be if I really master a trace of the universe principles one day. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his eyes flashed sharply. However, he quickly closed his eyes and began to immerse himself in comprehending the first layer of the secret inscription. Time passed once again. In the blink of an eye, 5,000 years had passed since the battle between Jian Wushuang and Di Shisan. During these 5,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been comprehending the first level of the secret inscription in front of the Heaven Suppression Tablet. During these 5,000 years, the divine beginning realm had been extremely calm. Almost nothing major had happened. The only thing that was more eye-catching was, it was only because of the rise of the seven-star mysterious sect that they had regained their position in the divine beginning realm. In the universe void, in the star field where the divine beginning realm was located, it was one of the three battlefields, Crimson Stone Mountain. The vast and boundless blood-red land was like a huge blood-red mouth, devouring everything. No experts who were adventuring in Crimson Stone Mountain dared to set foot on the blood-red land. They could only stand on the blood-red stones that stood on the blood-red land. As one of the three great universe battlefields, Crimson Stone Mountain was filled with endless dangers and opportunities. Naturally, there were many strong warriors here. In the core area of Crimson Stone Mountain, two principles masters landed on a blood-red rock. One of them was tall and the other was short. The aura on their bodies was not weak, and they had already reached the 6th level of the void space realm. Our luck is really bad. We have been here for tens of thousands of years, but we haven't gotten a single true treasure. The taller man curled his lips and said, "Don't be ungrateful. Although we haven't acquired any universe true treasures of top tier or higher over the years, we've still acquired a few basic true treasures, and we've even acquired 2 senior rulers. We've already gained quite a bit. If you want to acquire higher level and more precious true treasures, you can do so, but you'll have to venture deeper," the short old man said. Deeper? The tall man's pupils constricted, but he shook his head. This is already the core region. If we go any deeper, it'll be too dangerous for both of us. It's good that you know. The short old man smiled. And just as the two of them were casually conversing, boom! The world suddenly shook violently, and the entire Crimson Stone Mountain and the blood-red continent below began to tremble violently. What's going on? What's going on? The tall man and the short old man were both shocked as they looked around at the void in a daze. Suddenly, bang! In front of them, somewhere on the blood-red land, there was a loud bang. Following that, the blood-red land exploded, and large patches of blood-red clouds erupted like lava from a volcano. They directly erupted from the exploded land. The red clouds swept wildly, and their power was earth-shaking. In the blink of an eye, the majestic red clouds had already arrived in front of the blood stone that the tall man and the short old man were standing in. Hurry up and leave! The tall man and the short old man were both shocked, and they did not hesitate to burst out with their fastest speed to rush toward the void behind them. As soon as they left, the vast blood-colored cloud invaded them and completely covered the blood stone they were at earlier. After it was covered, the blood stone did not change much. However, from within the blood-colored cloud, one could clearly hear the terrifying sound of erosion. This sound caused the expressions of the tall man and the short old man to change drastically. However, before the two of them could rejoice that they had escaped a calamity, the blood-colored fog once again swept over. At the same time, on the blood-colored land not too far away from them, bang! The same thing happened. Similarly, it was as if a volcano had erupted from the ground. Large swaths of blood-colored fog erupted from the ground and swept wildly in all directions. It was not just the area where the tall man and the short old man were located. At this moment, Crimson Stone Mountain was already in the midst of a huge riot. Deep within Crimson Stone Mountain, in every corner, the blood-colored ground suddenly exploded. Countless blood-colored clouds erupted from within and wildly swept away everything in the surroundings. The entire Crimson Stone Mountain was like a huge active volcano that had completely erupted. That power was earth-shattering. And the countless cultivators who were wandering around Crimson Stone Mountain, after seeing this scene, they were shocked and terrified at first, but very quickly, they turned into joy. Red Cloud Mist Tide. This is the Red Cloud Mist Tide. So many blood-colored clouds, erupting from underground, engulfing the entire Crimson Stone Mountain. This is the legendary Red Cloud Mist Tide. The Red Cloud Mist Tide has finally appeared again. Many cultivators who had been adventuring in the universe battlefield for a long time and knew more about it had already understood why there was such a drastic change in Crimson Stone Mountain. They also understood that the drastic change in Crimson Stone Mountain this time was the legendary Red Cloud Mist Tide. And the Red Cloud Mist Tide was quite dangerous. To the cultivators who were adventuring on Crimson Stone Mountain, it was definitely on the level of a disaster. This was because the blood-colored mist that was erupting from underground contained a terrifying erosive power. It was enough to easily corrode all the divine power of the Principal's Masters. Therefore, even the Principal's Masters, if they were not careful and were completely covered by the blood-colored mist, the chances of them dying were very high. Therefore, almost all the Principal's Masters on Crimson Stone Mountain were frantically fleeing for their lives. In the depths of Crimson Stone Mountain, the tall man and the short old man who happened to be at the center of the Red Cloud Mist Tide were frantically fleeing. Their hearts were trembling with fear. Red Cloud Mist Tide. I didn't expect that the two of us would actually encounter the Red Cloud Mist Tide. Furthermore, we happened to be right in the middle of it. This time we're in big trouble, the tall man said in a low voice. Damn it! Wasn't the Red Cloud Mist Tide only a short while ago? Why did it erupt again in such a short time? The short old man cursed in a low voice. Who knows? Most people would be extremely happy to see the Red Cloud Mist Tide erupt. I believe that many people in this galaxy would be pleasantly surprised after hearing the news. However, the Red Cloud Mist Tide is a disaster for you and me, who are at the center of the Red Cloud Mist Tide. We have to think of a way to quickly escape from this fog tide. Otherwise, when the fog tide in all directions connects together, the two of us will be dead for sure, the tall man said. Hurry up and escape. At this moment, the two of them were frantically fleeing for their lives. They only wanted to find a gap in the red fog tide in all directions and escape. However, they didn't know if they could find that gap or if it was too late. However, just as they had said, although the two of them were terrified and running for their lives, many experts in the star area became excited after hearing the news of the red cloud mist tide. North Sea Palace. As one of the top 3 forces in the entire starfield, the North Sea Palace knew about the red cloud mist tide at Crimson Stone Mountain. In the Grand Palace, almost all the top experts of the North Sea Palace had arrived. Even those who had been adventuring in the 3 battlefields had their incarnations gathered here. The 3 rulers of the North Sea Palace were seated at the very top. It has only been 120 million years since the last time the red cloud mist tide appeared. It actually appeared again. The time it appeared this time is indeed a bit too early. That's normal. The red cloud mist tide didn't appear at a regular time, and the longest time it appeared was 800 million years ago. This time it has been 120 million years, which isn't too short. The high-level experts of the North Sea Palace were all discussing. After the red cloud mist sea appears, the red cloud world should also appear. A peak level 6 principles master suddenly said. At the mention of the red cloud world, smiles appeared on the faces of the many experts of the North Sea Palace. Clearly, the reason why they were so excited when they heard that the red cloud mist sea appeared was because of the red cloud world. At this moment, the Sky Rock ruler, who was the strongest and had the highest status among the 3 rulers, personally spoke out. After the red cloud sea appears, the red cloud world will immediately appear. Every time the red cloud world appears, it will be a great opportunity. This time it will be no exception. Therefore, the experts under the North Sea Palace can make preparations now. In 10 days, all of you will follow me to Crimson Stone Mountain. I will personally go to the red cloud world this time. Long Yuan, you will go with me. As for Xingkong, you will stay in the North Sea Palace to keep watch. Sky Rock ruler glanced at the 2 rulers. Although they were both rulers, the 2 clearly followed Sky Rock ruler's lead. Yes. Ruler Long Yuan and Ruler Xingkong both nodded. Ruler Long Yuan's eyes were clearly filled with a hint of excitement. As for Ruler Xingkong, although he felt a bit regretful, he didn't complain. Ruler Xingkong was the weakest of the 3 rulers in terms of power, after all. It made sense for him to stay behind to keep watch. As for the opportunities within the Red Cloud world, Sky Rock ruler and Ruler Long Yuan would have to fight over them. 10 days later, the people of the North Sea Palace set off. In the vast void of the universe, a triangular gray palace quietly floated there. In this palace were Elder Darkbone and Life Fall King. Although these 2 had stayed in this palace for a long time, they knew clearly about the major events that had happened in the star field. The 2 had immediately learned of the appearance of the Red Cloud Mist Tide at Crimson Stone Mountain. The Red Cloud Mist Tide has appeared. It seems that the Red Cloud world will soon see the light of day again. Elder Darkbone laughed calmly. Elder Darkbone had lived for an incomparably long time. He was someone who had lived in the same era as the Temporal Temple Lord. He had experienced the Red Cloud Mist Tide many times, so he naturally knew of it. I've heard of the Red Cloud world as well. It is said to be a great opportunity. Many rulers in this region are extremely excited about this opportunity. They definitely won't miss it. Life Fall King said. I see. Elder Darkbone nodded. He then asked, Life Fall, you are a ruler realm expert as well. This time, the Red Cloud world has appeared. Don't you want to go take a look and try your luck? Of course I want to go. If I miss such an opportunity, who knows how long it will take next time? Life Fall King smiled. Elder Darkbone, what about you? As for me, Elder Darkbone pondered for a moment, then smiled. I have nothing to do these few years anyway. Let's go take a look. Then let's go together. Life Fall King smiled. Soon, Elder Darkbone and Life Fall King headed toward Crimson Stone Mountain. The Star Palace was a fairly famous power in this starfield. There were quite a few cultivators in the Star Palace who had been adventuring within Crimson Stone Mountain. When the dramatic changes occurred within Crimson Stone Mountain, the Star Palace received the news as well. Upon receiving the news, Taoist Shen God immediately summoned the many experts of the highest level of the Star Palace. Within the towering palace, more than 10 figures were seated. These 10 figures were all the most powerful experts of the 6 realms within the Star Palace. The appearance of the red cloud mist-tide means that the red cloud world will immediately reappear in the mortal world. If any of you are interested in the opportunities within the red cloud world, you can head to Crimson Stone Mountain as soon as possible and enter the red cloud world to search for opportunities. I have only one request for you. Taoist Shen God looked downwards. When we arrive at the red cloud world, you must unite as much as possible so that we can obtain the greatest benefits for our Star Palace. Yes. The 10 or so principals masters nodded solemnly and quickly left. After these principals masters left, buzz, 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 4 figures appeared around Taoist Shen God. They were Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, the Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor. Among them, Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master were all in the Divine Beginning realm. Only their consciousness avatars appeared here. Shen God, why did you summon us here? The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master asked. Jian Wushuang also looked at Taoist Shen God. He was meditating under the Heaven Suppression Tablet in the Eternal Chaotic World when Shen God suddenly sent him a message, asking him to be aware of it. Shen God knew that Jian Wushuang had been cultivating all these years. Under normal circumstances, Shen God would not disturb him unless there was something important. Yes, there is. 3 days ago, red clouds covered the sky at Crimson Stone Mountain. As expected, the red cloud mist-tide appeared again, said Shen God. Red cloud mist-tide? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were stunned when they heard this, and then they were pleasantly surprised. Only Jian Wushuang was puzzled. He had not cultivated for a long time, and he did not spend much time in the universe battlefield. He had never been to Crimson Stone Mountain, so he did not know many things. He did not know what the so-called red cloud mist-tide was. Taoist Shen God, who was standing beside him, naturally noticed Jian Wushuang's confusion. He could not help laughing and said, "The red cloud mist-tide is a unique phenomenon in Crimson Stone Mountain. When it appears, the red clouds cover the sky and almost cover the entire Crimson Stone Mountain. The terrifying corrosive power contained in the red clouds is enough to easily kill the principal's master. Therefore, the red cloud mist-tide is equivalent to a disaster for Crimson Stone Mountain." This explanation made Jian Wushuang even more confused. Since it's a disaster, why are you so surprised? Jian Wushuang asked in puzzlement. Since it's a disaster, why are you so surprised? Jian Wushuang really did not understand. Seeing this, Taoist Shen God and the others looked at each other and smiled. My young friend, you may not know this, but the red cloud mist-tide is indeed a disaster for Crimson Stone Mountain. However, under this disaster, there are also huge opportunities, Taoist Shen God said with a smile. Opportunities. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Red Cloud World is one of the biggest opportunities in Crimson Stone Mountain. Taoist Shen God said, every time the red cloud mist-tide appears, the red cloud world will reappear in the human world. At that time, all cultivators can enter the red cloud world and stay there for 10,000 years. And the red cloud world is full of endless opportunities and treasures. As long as you are lucky and have a certain strength, you can get these opportunities. Since the 3 great battlefields began to exist in this star area, the red cloud world of Crimson Stone Mountain has appeared many times. Under normal circumstances, the red cloud mist-tide will only appear once every several 100 million years. Naturally, the red cloud world will only open once every several 100 million years. However, there is no set time. Sometimes, the longest time is 800 million years. Every time the red cloud world opens, countless experts from the various powers in this starfield will go crazy and venture into the red cloud world. Of course, many of them have obtained great fortunes there. For example, billions of years ago, there was a ruler of principles. His strength was quite ordinary, but he was lucky enough to obtain a great fortune in the red cloud world. After staying in the red cloud world for 10,000 years, he immediately reached the Rulrik level. He also had a powerful secret art, and his combat power was comparable to that of top rulers. There's also someone who got a precious inheritance in the red cloud world. From then on, He soared to the sky and reached the top of this star area in just a few 100,000 years. Then, he went to the depths of the universe to explore. Of course, these are all rare opportunities. Not only the Red Cloud world, but many other places in the 3 battlefields are hiding such great opportunities. However, those great opportunities contain great dangers, while the Red Cloud world is relatively easy to encounter. Moreover, the danger is smaller. However, in terms of true treasures, every time the Red Cloud world reappears in the human world, there will be a large number of universe true treasures emerging. For example, top-tier and pinnacle universe true treasures, be it attack weapons, true treasure armor, domain type, suppression type, flying type, and so on, all of them are available. In addition, there are many of them. Even supreme universe true treasures. Every time the Red Cloud world reappears, during these 10,000 years, there will definitely be supreme universe true treasures emerging, and not just one, but a total of 10. Although most of them are attack weapons, true treasure armor, and other special types of supreme universe true treasures will also be present. For example, Heaven Ancestor's Axe, which is a supreme universe true treasure, was obtained from the last time the Red Cloud world appeared, said Taoist Shen God with a laugh. Haha, I was purely lucky that time. I just happened to come across a supreme universe true treasure appearing, and it just so happened that I could use it. Heaven Ancestor laughed very proudly. In terms of power, the heavenly clan was considered quite ordinary among the great beings at the ruler realm. Under normal circumstances, a low-level ruler like him would not be able to use a supreme universe true treasure unless he had the support of a major power. However, the Heaven Ancestor was lucky enough to obtain a suitable giant axe in the Red Cloud world. Hearing their conversation, Jian Wushuang could not help but feel excited. As Taoist Shen God had said, the great opportunities in the Red Cloud world were not very attractive to Jian Wushuang. After all, those great opportunities were usually only available to those who were truly lucky. Under normal circumstances, it would be considered good enough for one person to obtain such a great opportunity in the Red Cloud world. Jian Wushuang did not think that he would be so lucky. However, the supreme treasures that were born in the Red Cloud world in the past 10,000 years made Jian Wushuang's heart flutter. There were a large number of top-tier and peak-tier universe supreme treasures, and even 10 supreme universe supreme treasures. Supreme universe supreme treasures of that level, were enough for experts at the ruler realm to fight madly for them. There were many great beings at the ruler realm in this star field, but none of them had a supreme universe true treasure. These rulers were all eager to get a supreme universe true treasure that was suitable for them, just like Heaven Ancestor. Normally, they roamed the 3 battlefields. Although there were many supreme universe true treasures in the 3 battlefields, only one could be born after a long time, unlike the Red Cloud world. As long as the Red Cloud world was opened, within 10,000 years, no less than 10 supreme universe true treasures would be born. Who would want to miss such an opportunity? It was no wonder that the great beings of the various powers in the starfield were so eager to see the Red Cloud world. It was no wonder that Taoist Shen God and the others were so excited and surprised. The Red Cloud world was a great blessing to the principals masters of this starfield and the rulers. My young friend, you are no weaker than an advanced ruler now. However, although you have the supreme treasure divine sword that you got from the Skyrock ruler and the Mountain River map and the Heaven Suppression tablet that your master left for you, I'm afraid that you can't control or use them now. The supreme treasure divine sword is still not enough for you, said Taoist Shen God. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He also understood that if he had the divine sword of Styx as his most powerful weapon and the map of mountains and rivers, he would be able to master the Heaven Suppression tablet one day. It was definitely a very rich treasure. However, his enemy came from the distant Devil Cloud Star, the Star Master. The master of the Devil Cloud Star was a master of a second-level astral world. He had a lot of resources, so he must have all kinds of treasures. He was much richer than Jian Wushuang. Therefore, Jian Wushuang must find a way to get more supreme treasures. At the very least, he must have a decent supreme treasure armor. It's definitely good news for us that the Red Cloud world has come out at this time. This means that we can get as many supreme treasures for you as possible in the next 10,000 years. When the master of the Devil Cloud Star arrives, we will have a better chance of winning, said Taoist Xian God. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. By the way, Xian God, there are countless opportunities and treasures in the Red Cloud world. I wonder if there are treasures like the Ice Heart Glazed Jade in the Red Cloud world. Jian Wushuang asked. Ice Heart Glazed Jade? Taoist Xian God frowned slightly. As far as I know, the Red Cloud world has appeared so many times. Countless treasures have been born, and many opportunities have been obtained. As for secret arts and techniques, they have also been obtained by others. But as for natural treasures, I've never heard of anyone obtaining them from within. Well, there doesn't seem to be any special natural treasures in the Red Cloud world. However, I have heard of a rumor about the Red Cloud world, Temporal Temple Master suddenly said. A rumor? Jian Wushuang looked over. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you may not know this, but the Red Cloud world does not only have one heaven and earth. Instead, it is divided into 3 levels just like our divine beginning realm. After experts from this star field entered the Red Cloud world, they have always been exploring the first level. As for the second level and the third level, no one has ever set foot in it. Therefore, there is a rumor that whoever has the ability to step into the second heaven can choose one of the many treasures in the Red Cloud world. Among them, there might be a genius treasure like the Ice Heart Glazed Jade, Temporal Temple Master said. There is such a rumor? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but then he said in a deep voice, Has anyone confirmed the rumor? No, Temporal Temple Master shook his head. Although the Red Cloud Misttide has appeared many times and countless experts have entered the Red Cloud world, no one seems to be able to step into the second heaven. What's going on? Don't know how to get to the second heaven, or? Jian Wushuang asked. No, the path to the second heaven has been known to the public for a long time. In the center of the first heaven of the Red Cloud world, there is a towering mountain called Heaven Treading Mountain. There are many dangers on Heaven Treading Mountain, and there are experts guarding it. For a long time, those experts who entered the Red Cloud world would try to reach the top of Heaven Treading Mountain before the 10,000-year deadline. But in all these years, no one has really reached the top of Heaven Treading Mountain, Temporal Temple Master said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. It had been a long time, but no one had ever reached the top of Heaven Treading Mountain. One could imagine how difficult it was. My young friend, you have only cultivated for a short time and are only at the level of a principal's master, but your battle strength is comparable to an advanced ruler. If you go to Heaven Treading Mountain, you might have a chance to reach the top, Temporal Temple Master said. Temporal, you think too highly of me. It's not that easy. Jian Wushuang smiled. Temporal Temple Master merely shrugged. Of course, he also knew that it was not that easy to truly reach the top of Heaven Treading Mountain. Even if Jian Wushuang was a monster, no one had been able to reach the top of Heaven Treading Mountain for so many years. This trip to the Red Cloud world is of great significance to the divine beginning realm. We can't be careless. Therefore, the 3 of you, Heavenly Marquis, Xianxia, and Temporal, will go there personally. The Heaven Ancestor will return to the divine beginning realm to oversee it, while I will continue to stay in Star Palace to gather intelligence and provide emergency support. Do you have any objections? Taoist Xian God looked around and asked. Jian Wushuang and the others looked at each other and nodded. There were 5 master-level experts present, and Jian Wushuang was the absolute core. The entire divine beginning realm and Star Palace served Jian Wushuang, and only Jian Wushuang's strength could grow as fast as possible. Only the divine beginning realm had the capital to contend with Devil Cloud Star. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had to go to the Red Cloud world in person. Only the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, whose strength was no less than Jian Wushuang's, had the battle strength of an advanced master. With his strength, he would have a higher chance of obtaining supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. As for the Temporal Temple Master, he had an extraordinary use of the principles of time and space. When they went to the Red Cloud world together, he could be of great help to Jian Wushuang or the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master in an emergency. It was indeed the best choice for the 3 of them to go to the Red Cloud world. As for Taoist Xian God and the Heaven Ancestor, they could stay. Since everyone has agreed, let's get ready and meet up in Star Palace as soon as possible, said Taoist Xian God. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. His body swayed and his consciousness avatar disappeared. In the eternal chaotic world, in front of the heaven suppression tablet under the ancient battlefield, Jian Wushuang's eyes had already opened. Red Cloud World. Jian Wushuang muttered, his eyes narrowing slightly. For me, the Red Cloud World is indeed a good opportunity to get a chance and a supreme treasure. If I miss this opportunity, I'm afraid I won't know where to get a suitable supreme treasure in the future. In 10,000 years, no less than 10 supreme universe supreme treasures will be born. No matter what, I have to find a way to get one or two, or at least one supreme treasure armor. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and stood up, looking at the heaven suppression tablet in front of him. The huge heaven suppression tablet, which was 30,000 feet tall, was still standing there calmly. During the past 5,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been carefully comprehending the heaven suppression tablet. However, even after 5,000 years, Jian Wushuang had only comprehended 20 to 30% of the first level of the secret pattern in the heaven suppression tablet. 20 to 30% was far from being completely mastered. Obviously, he still had a long way to go before he could truly master the heaven suppression tablet. However, even though he had only comprehended 20 to 30% of the secret patterns, Jian Wushuang's progress of 5,000 years was still very huge. In the beginning, he had only comprehended the heaven suppression tablet for 30 years, but his comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle had improved a lot. He had even grasped a trace of the aura of the universe principles. Thus, he had defeated Di Shursan by relying on his swordsmanship. He had improved so much in 30 years. Now, he had studied for a full 5,000 years. In these 5,000 years, although his improvement speed was not as fast as it was at the beginning, it was still quite frightening. Not to mention other things, just in terms of the Sword Tao, his comprehension of the universe origin of the Sword Tao was much stronger than before. If previously he had only comprehended a trace of the universe origin of the Sword Tao, but now, he could at least be considered to have crossed the threshold. Now, with a casual sword technique, the universe origin of Sword Tao contained in that sword technique was much denser than before, and its power was naturally much stronger than before. His sword technique was also much stronger than before. Now, if he were to fight with Di Shursan again, even if he didn't rely on the universe principle's aura, he would have the confidence to defeat Di Shursan's sword technique system just by relying on his comprehension of the universe origin of Sword Tao. Di Shursan would not be able to resist even a little bit of the universe principle's aura. And this was only the improvement in Sword Tao and swordsmanship. 5,000 years of comprehending under the heaven suppression tablet. One had to know that the secret engravings in the heaven suppression tablet were derived from the principles of the universe, and the principles of the universe were lofty and inclusive. On the way of comprehending even the principles of heaven and earth, in terms of the principles of heaven and earth. For example, he had completely comprehended the three principles of temporal, reincarnation, and destruction. Naturally, he could not improve because he had already comprehended them. However, his application of the three principles was much better than before. The better he used the principles, the stronger the three principles combined with the divine power, and the stronger Jian Wushuang's overall strength. In addition to the three principles, he had also begun to comprehend the fourth principles, the earth principles, in the past 5,000 years. Although he had barely begun to come into contact with the universe principles and his sword principle had reached the sword principle universe origin, the heaven and earth rule was still something that many principles masters and rulers in the universe wanted to comprehend. In order to break through from principles master to ruler, he had to first comprehend the four principles and completely fuse them together. When Jian Wushuang went to the principles temple to test his affinity with the principles of heaven and earth, he knew that other than the three principles of temporal, reincarnation, and destruction, the principles of gold, the principles of fate, and the principles of earth had the highest affinity. The reason why Jian Wushuang chose the principles of earth as the fourth principle for his comprehension was mainly because of the battle with Di Shursan. The battle with Di Shursan had inspired him greatly and made him realize the shortcomings of his swordsmanship. This shortcoming was that his swordsmanship was almost all offensive swordsmanship without any defensive swordsmanship. As for other domain-type swordsmanship and trapping swordsmanship, they were even less. Purely offensive swordsmanship was indeed too monotonous and incomplete. After realizing this, he would naturally begin to make changes to his swordsmanship in the future. As for the principles of the earth, they were thick and heavy, and were the ones with the strongest defensive ability among the few great principles that had a higher affinity with him. Comprehending the principles of the earth would be of great benefit to his defensive swordsmanship in the future. On the other hand, the principles of metal and fate, one of them was still extremely strong and focused on offense. The other one was illusory, and the principles of fate were few and far between among the many cultivators in the universe. It was not easy to reach the peak of the principles of fate. Therefore, Jian Wushuang chose the principles of the earth. In the past 5,000 years, he had been comprehending the principles of the earth under the heaven suppression tablet. With the help of the mystery of the secret inscription, his comprehension of the principles of the earth had reached an extremely high level from the beginning until now. He was not far from completely comprehending them. I haven't reached the peak of the principles of the earth yet. When I completely comprehend the principles of the earth one day and completely fuse them with the three principles of temporal, reincarnation, and destruction, I don't know if I can break through to the ruler realm. But when the time comes, I can combine the principles of the earth and the principles of reincarnation and begin to focus on creating defensive swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang thought. The principles of the earth was good at body protection and defense. The principles of reincarnation contained the power of yin and yang of life and death. It was also very good at body protection and defense. The combination of the two was naturally more impressive. However, even if I haven't completely comprehended the principles of the earth, with my attainments in sword principle and the 5,000 years of comprehension, I still created a body protection swordsmanship based on the principles of the earth. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang headed toward the Star Palace. Soon, Jian Wushuang stepped into the universe void again and arrived at the Star Palace. He also met up with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master. Let's go. After the three of them met up, they headed directly toward Crimson Stone Mountain without any hesitation. Crimson Stone Mountain was one of the three universe battlefields in this star field. However, due to the appearance of the red cloud mist tide, Crimson Stone Mountain had become the absolute focus of this star field. Even now, when they were exploring the other two battlefields, most of them had already rushed to Crimson Stone Mountain. When Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master arrived at the border of Crimson Stone Mountain, the vast Crimson Stone Mountain was completely covered by the towering red clouds. The red clouds soared into the sky, and their power was earth-shaking. It's been so long, but the red cloud mist tide still hasn't dissipated, and it's really wide. It erupted from the core of Crimson Stone Mountain, and it actually covered the entire Crimson Stone Mountain. Jian Wushuang revealed a surprised look. It's normal. The red cloud mist tide usually appears for a year or even several years. It's only been a month since the red cloud mist tide erupted. It's still very early. We can only wait here until the red cloud mist tide has completely retreated before we can enter, the Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang was slightly enlightened. According to Taoist Shen God, the red cloud mist tide was extremely terrifying and would be a huge disaster for the entire Crimson Stone Mountain. Although he already had the battle strength of an advanced ruler and had cultivated the supreme-level undying celestial body, he still did not dare to directly enter the red cloud mist tide. After all, the red cloud mist tide was boundless. The erosion ability was terrifying. Once a person was trapped in it, he was likely to be corroded to death by the red cloud mist tide, and the sovereign was no exception. I've instructed the principal's masters under Star Palace who are eager to enter the red cloud world, as well as the experts under the three major freedom alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm, to come here as soon as possible to meet us. After the red cloud mist tide has dispersed, they will enter the red cloud world together, Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang nodded. The appearance of the red cloud world had shocked the entire star field, and countless experts were eager to enter it. The experts from Star Palace and the three freedom alliances were no exception. However, most of the principal's masters were wandering in the three battlefields, and they were very scattered. The appearance of the red cloud world. The experts from the other two battlefields had rushed over. The experts who had been wandering in Crimson Stone Mountain had long left. Let's wait, Jian Wushuang said, and then waited quietly. As time passed, more and more experts arrived around Crimson Stone Mountain. More and more experts from Star Palace gathered behind Jian Wushuang and the other two. A year after the Red Cloud Mist Tide erupted, the Principal's Masters from Star Palace and the three Freedom Alliances gathered behind Jian Wushuang and the other two. All of them were Principal's Masters above the fifth realm of the void. After all, although the Red Cloud world was full of opportunities, because there were many experts who entered, the fights were very fierce. The weaker ones were basically courting death if Principal's Masters below the fifth realm entered. Therefore, most of those who dared to enter the Red Cloud world were above the fifth realm of the void. They were generally at the peak of the 5 states of the void, and there were also many who had reached the 6 states of the void. Not only the people from Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances, but also the top experts from many forces in the Star area had gathered around Crimson Stone Mountain. As Jian Wushuang's soul power swept through the void, he could sense thousands of strong auras. Crimson Stone Mountain was vast and boundless. There were dozens of entrances to Crimson Stone Mountain and the Red Cloud world. There were dozens of entrances. Jian Wushuang and the others had already gathered more than 1,000 people at one of the entrances. All of them were experts above the fifth realm of the void. If all the entrances were added up, there were too many top experts gathered around Crimson Stone Mountain. There are so many people. Jian Wushuang sighed. The attraction of the Red Cloud world is no small matter. Not only the experts who have been wandering around the 3 battlefields, but also many experts who have been living in seclusion for a long time and have never been to the universe battlefields. When they heard the news, almost all of them came. Not only the Principal's Masters, but also the Masters' many ancient existences will definitely come when they know that the Red Cloud world has opened. In total, there should be no less than 40 rulers, Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang was not surprised. 40 rulers. The number looked terrifying, but in fact there were several rulers in the Divine Beginning Realm alone. The Divine Beginning Realm was just a third-class astral world that had not evolved to its peak. One had to know that there were dozens of astral worlds in the starfield, and many of them had long since reached their peak. In addition, there were quite a few astral worlds that had gone into decline, but they were left behind by the experts. Even though a large portion of them chose to enter the depths of the universe to explore, there were still quite a few who continued to stay in this starfield. If all these were added up, the number of rulers in this starfield was not small. It was normal for 30 to 40 masters to come to the Red Cloud world at the same time. It seems that it won't be easy for us to get 1 or 2 Supreme Universe Supreme Treasures from the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang said. Of course it won't be easy. Last time, the Heaven Ancestor was very lucky to get a Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure. However, this time we have 3 masters, and both of your combat strength are comparable to advanced masters. In addition, I have a deep understanding of temporal. As long as we can find a Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure, we have a good chance of getting it, Temporal Temple Master said. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. While Jian Wushuang was talking with Temporal Temple Master, more than 1,000 experts gathered at the entrance and whispered among themselves. Did someone look at Jian Wushuang and the others? There was nothing they could do. Although there were many experts at the entrance, there were only 2 experts at the ruler realm. They were both on Jian Wushuang's side, so it was difficult for them not to attract attention. Are all the people in the void from Star Palace? No, some don't seem to be. Not all of them are from Star Palace. Some of them are from the 3 Freedom Alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm. However, according to the news, the 3 Freedom Alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm are in the same boat as Star Palace. Now, I know the Temporal Temple Master who is standing among the 2 rulers. As for the other one, that's the leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. He once roamed the universe battlefield, and he's quite famous. It's just that he hasn't roamed the universe battlefield for many years. It's said that something happened in the Divine Beginning Realm, and because of some special reasons, the leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has been staying in the Divine Beginning Realm. TSK, your news is already out of date. Some time ago, a good friend of mine came to visit me. He's a solitary expert from the Divine Beginning Realm. He told me that the Divine Beginning Realm had a great change not long ago. The original ruler of the three saint realms had been completely destroyed, and now the divine beginning realm is said to be an iron bucket. And the current leader of the divine beginning realm is not only the heaven-cleaving alliance master, temporal temple master, and heaven ancestor, but also an expert named Heavenly Sword Marquis. The three saint realms have been destroyed? No wonder the Holy Island seems to have been destroyed by the Star Palace. Heavenly Sword Marquis? Who is that Heavenly Sword Marquis? Is he also a ruler? Many experts secretly communicated through voice transmission. The red-haired elder, who clearly had some understanding of the situation in the divine beginning realm, smiled and said, "You may not know the name of Heavenly Sword Marquis, but I'm sure you know the famous Blood Sword Master, right?" Blood Sword Master? Many experts present were stunned. They subconsciously looked at Jian Wushuang, who was standing in the middle of Temporal Temple Master and Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and then throbbed. Indeed, they did not know Heavenly Sword Marquis, but they did not know the Blood Sword Master. He had defeated 5 experts of the Ultimate Six Realm by himself. In this star field, he was known as the strongest Principles Master. That Heavenly Sword Marquis is the Blood Sword Master. I heard that he has the strength of a ruler now, the red-haired elder said with a smile. A ruler? Everyone was shocked. How is that possible? He has the strength of a ruler. Judging from his aura, he is just a Principles Master. He hasn't become a ruler yet. It's hard to say. He had a great encounter before. When he defeated the 5 experts of the Ultimate Six Realms, his strength was already very close to that of a ruler. Now, after nearly 10,000 years, he might have made a breakthrough and really have the strength of a ruler. Everyone was talking, but there was no doubt that they were full of respect for Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master. These Principles Masters could not afford to offend an expert at the level of a ruler. As for Jian Wushuang, regardless of whether he really possessed the battle strength of a ruler, he had already defeated 5 experts at the pinnacle of the 6 realms. He was widely recognized as the strongest among the Principles Masters in this star area. This was enough to make the Principles Masters tremble. When the red cloud mist tide dispersed and they entered the red cloud world, they would definitely stay far away from Jian Wushuang if they encountered him. At this moment, buzz! The space around them shook slightly, and then a white-robed figure slowly stepped out. As soon as this person appeared, an extremely powerful aura immediately swept out. A ruler? Another ruler? Another ruler is coming? More than 1,000 experts at the entrance immediately looked over when they sensed the aura. Even Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master looked at the newcomer. When they saw the newcomer clearly, the corners of Jian Wushuang's mouth curled up into a playful smile. It's him. Ruler of Blueness. It's Ruler of Blueness. The numerous Principles Masters at the entrance were shocked when they saw the white-robed figure. Ruler of Blueness was quite famous in the 3 battlefields. When Ruler of Blueness arrived at the entrance, he immediately sensed the presence of the people from Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances. At the same time, he also noticed Jian Wushuang's half-smile gaze. The gaze made his heart tremble, but he immediately lowered his body and bowed slightly in Jian Wushuang's direction through the void. You're quite tactful. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. It seems that after the last time, you've become afraid of the Heavenly Sword Marquis, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. Others thought that he was a solitary ruler, but only Jian Wushuang and the others knew that he was actually an avatar of the Earth Saint Star Master. Jian Wushuang had killed his way into the Holy Star for the sake of the Ice Heart Glazed Jade. He had beaten the Holy Star Master so badly that he had to lower his head and reveal his secret. The secret was the Black Ruler. Jian Wushuang knew the true identity of the Black Ruler, but the Principles Masters at the entrance did not know, let alone the relationship between the Black Ruler and Jian Wushuang. Therefore, when they saw the actions of the ruler, they were surprised. What is the ruler doing? He is bowing. Is he bowing to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master or the Temporal Temple Master? He should be the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. I heard that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master is an advanced ruler, so he should be stronger than the ruler. Although these Principles Masters said this, they still had a trace of doubt in their hearts. Under normal circumstances, even if the leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was a high-level ruler and was stronger than Ruler Yuking did not need to bow directly. At most, he would just show a little respect. However, Ruler Yuking's current actions clearly carried a trace of respect. He was a real ruler after all. Was there a need for him to be so respectful to an advanced ruler? What the Principal's masters did not know was that the ruler was not afraid of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance master, much less Temporal Temple master. What he was truly afraid of was Jian Wushuang. However, because Jian Wushuang was still a Principal's master and had yet to show his real combat strength to the outside world, the people around him did not know this. Time continued to pass. In the blink of an eye, another 3 months had passed. Buzz! In the vast crimson stone mountain in front of them, the red jade that filled the heaven and earth suddenly surged up. Then, large patches of red clouds began to shrink toward the depths of Crimson Stone Mountain. This scene caused the eyes of the experts at the entrance to light up. The red cloud mist tide is going to disappear. It's finally going to disappear. Once the red cloud mist tide is gone, we can enter the red cloud world. I can't wait any longer. Many experts began to look forward to it. Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, the Temporal Temple Master, and the others also stared at the changes in Crimson Stone Mountain. When they saw the red cloud begin to shrink, and in the blink of an eye, it had already shrunk out of their sight, they immediately started to move. Let's go! Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master took the lead. Jian Wushuang, Temporal Temple Master, Star Palace, and the Principal's Masters of the 3 Freedom Alliances followed behind. They rushed into Crimson Stone Mountain. Not only them, but the more than 1,500 Principal's Masters gathered at the entrance also rushed into Crimson Stone Mountain like wasps. Crimson Stone Mountain became completely lively. The entrance to the Red Cloud world is under the blood-red land of Crimson Stone Mountain. Usually, the land of Crimson Stone Mountain is covered with red clouds. No one can sneak into the underground through the red clouds. Only when the red cloud mist tide appears and the red clouds shrink to the deepest part of Crimson Stone Mountain will the entrance to the Red Cloud world see the light of day again. Oh, the entrance is down there. Jian Wushuang and the others had already arrived at Crimson Stone Mountain. Not long after they entered, they saw an endless abyss with a layer of faint red mist at the bottom of the abyss. According to what Temporal Temple Master had said, that layer of red mist was the entrance to the Red Cloud world. How big is the entrance? Jian Wushuang asked subconsciously. It's very big, covering almost the entire Crimson Stone Mountain. So now, no matter which direction the cultivators enter from, they can see the abyss after entering Crimson Stone Mountain. Naturally, they can also see the entrance below the abyss. Temporal Temple Master said, "Everyone, let's not waste any time. Let's enter the Red Cloud world now." All right. Everyone nodded in unison. Immediately, their figures rushed down the abyss. In just a short moment, they had arrived above the layer of red fog. Enter! The Temporal Temple Master let out a low cry. Everyone passed through the red fog and entered the Red Cloud world. The sky of the Red Cloud world was filled with red clouds, dyeing the entire sky red. There were no living plants on the same red land. There was a boundless red land everywhere. Occasionally, one could see bald red mountains or boulders. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Jian Wushuang appeared in the void of the Red Cloud world. As soon as he appeared, Jian Wushuang immediately released his soul power to cover the surrounding sky. The void of the Red Cloud world seems to be much more stable than the 3 battlefields. Even if I release my soul power at full strength, I can only cover an area of 100,000 kilometers. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. The area of 100,000 kilometers seemed to be very large, but in fact, if Jian Wushuang was in the divine beginning realm, it would be easy for him to cover millions of kilometers with his soul power with just a thought. Of course, in the universe void, he would be more restricted, but it was not too outrageous. In the 3 universe battlefields, his soul power could only cover an area of 1 million miles. In the Red Cloud world, it could only cover an area of 100,000 miles, which was already a big limit. There are 8 Principal's Masters in the area of 100,000 miles, but none of them belonged to Star Palace or the Three Freedom Alliances. Jian Wushuang's eyes darkened slightly. Before entering the Red Cloud world, he had heard from Temporal Temple Master that even though they entered the Red Cloud world together, as long as they passed through the entrance of the Red Cloud world, they would spread out to different corners of the Red Cloud world. That was why he did not have any experts from his side. Fortunately, although they have spread out, there is no restriction on communication in the Red Cloud world. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand and took out a communication token. Heaven-cleaving, temporal. Jian Wushuang immediately sent a message to Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master. Do you know your current location? Jian Wushuang asked. I should be on the 4th continent, Temporal Temple Master said. I'm on the 6th continent. What about you, Heavenly Sword Marquis? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master asked. I was teleported to a wasteland. There's nothing within a radius of 100,000 kilometers that I can identify. So I don't know which continent I'm on, Jian Wushuang said. There were 7 continents in the first heaven of the Red Cloud world. Except for the 7th continent, which was in the center, the other 6 continents were scattered around and close to each other. Before entering the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang had obtained a star map of the 7 continents in the Red Cloud world. On the star map, there were many marked places on the continents, including mountains, bloody rocks, and so on. There were also some abandoned buildings and even some battlefields. These things were easy to identify. However, there were no such things within a radius of 100,000 miles in the wilderness where Jian Wushuang was now. My young friend, you should find out which continent you are on as soon as possible, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Suddenly, buzz! A majestic aura suddenly came from the void not far away, causing the heaven and earth to tremble. What's this? Jian Wushuang's expression could not help but change. What's wrong? Temporal Temple Master asked. It seems that my luck is good. As soon as I came to the Red Cloud world, I encountered the birth of a true treasure. Judging from the aura of the true treasure, its level is not low, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. In that case, go and fight for it. Try to get as many supreme treasures as you can, Temporal Temple Master said. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Judging from its aura, I'm afraid that the place where the supreme treasure was born is about 500,000 miles away from me. With my speed, I can reach it in a moment. Jian Wushuang immediately rushed toward the place where the supreme treasure was born at his fastest speed. Soon, Jian Wushuang arrived at the place where the supreme treasure was born. He saw a dark golden long stick floating in the void, surrounded by a layer of dark golden light. The aura of the supreme treasure was emitted from the long stick. A top-tier universe supreme treasure? Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. When he arrived in the void, the dark golden long staff had completely appeared. For a moment, snatch! Hurry up and snatch the supreme treasure. This long staff is mine. There were 17 Principles Masters who had arrived in the void earlier than Jian Wushuang. Among them, there were 7 at the peak of the void 5th realm and 10 at the 6th realm. One of them was an expert at the peak of the 6th realm. The 17 Principles Masters rushed out at the same time after the dark golden longstaff was completely born. The fight began in an instant. Boom! 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 A series of violent explosions could be heard. At this moment, these Principles Masters unleashed their strongest strength. Some of them held magic weapons and rushed forward to fight. Some of them used their true treasures or secret skills to help their experts fight for the true treasures. Some of them used escape techniques to sneak toward the long staff. Those Principles Masters who could reach the peak of the 5th level of the Void Space Realm or the 6th level of the Void Space Realm were all powerful and had extraordinary techniques. At this moment, in order to fight for the true treasures, they were displaying their power and techniques to the fullest. However, among the 17 Principles Masters present, the most dazzling one was still the peak of the 6th level. He was the most powerful, and he was also very good at protecting his body. He directly relied on his tyrannical power and protective ability to charge at the front. He even easily pushed back the 2 senior great beings of the 6th level who were fighting with him. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of the dark golden long staff. He was less than 100 meters away from the dark golden long staff. Haha! This top-tier universe true treasure is mine. The wild man who looked like a savage laughed loudly. Suddenly, a phantom-like figure appeared in the void space in front of him. It was also beside the dark golden long staff. As soon as this figure appeared, he waved his hand and kept the dark golden long staff into his interspatial ring. This scene caused the savage-like man's face to instantly turn ferocious. Escape art! You dare to steal my treasure? You're courting death. The savage-like man's eyes were burning with rage. He didn't even look at the other party's appearance. He only saw that after the other party kept the dark golden long staff into his interspatial ring, he immediately attacked. A huge axe was swung out like lightning. The huge axe was surrounded by layers of flames, which burned the void crazily. In the blink of an eye, it had appeared in front of his opponent. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Swish! A sword essence instantly gathered in front of him. This sword essence seemed weak, but when it flew out and hit your huge axe, it instantly sent the huge axe flying. The sword essence did not lose its momentum and swept past the savage-looking man's neck. The savage-like man widened his eyes. It was not until he was about to die that he was able to truly see the other party's appearance. At the same time, he also understood why he, a powerful expert at the peak of the 6th level, did not even have the slightest chance to struggle before he was instantly killed by the other party. So it's him. The savage-like man was filled with unwillingness and fear, but his voice had already been completely cut off. In the surrounding void, the other 16 Principles Masters who wanted to fight for the dark gold long staff were terrified when they saw this scene. They did not recognize Jian Wushuang at first, but after the savage-looking man died, they immediately recognized him. It's Heavenly Sword Marquis. Blood Sword Master? Go, hurry up and leave. None of the 16 Principles Masters present hesitated. They no longer had any greed for the dark golden long staff. They immediately turned around and left this place at the fastest speed possible. No one dared to stay even half a step, let alone fight for it. What a joke. This starfield acknowledged that the strongest Principles Master, Blood Sword Master, was there. How could they fight for it? Even if all of them joined hands, Blood Sword Master could easily kill them all. In the blink of an eye, all the Principles Masters in the area had left, and the fight was over. A top-tier universe true treasure. So easy to get? Jian Wushuang stood there with both hands, a strange smile on his face. What he did not know was that there were too many universe true treasures in the Red Cloud world. If he were to wander in the 3 battlefields, even in the deepest part of the battlefield, he would usually need to spend some time in the drill ground to encounter a higher-tier true treasure. However, in the Red Cloud world, there were countless high-tier and top-tier universe true treasures. With his battle strength, it was easy for him to get a top-tier universe true treasure. Jian Wushuang got a top-tier universe supreme treasure as soon as he entered the Red Cloud world, and it was very easy. This made Jian Wushuang look forward to the Red Cloud world even more. With the appearance of one supreme treasure after another, the feast in the Red Cloud world had really begun. In the blink of an eye, 20 years had passed. Heaven Cleaving, congratulations on obtaining another advanced supreme treasure armor. Jian Wushuang, the Heaven Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master exchanged messages. Haha, I was lucky. This time, the supreme treasure armor was born less than 300,000 miles away from me, and I was the only ruler around. I got it easily. The Heaven Cleaving Alliance Master laughed heartily. You've been lucky for 20 years, said Temporal Temple Master. Over the past 20 years, I've gotten more true treasures than you. Not at all, said Temporal Temple Master. I've gotten a lot of true treasures in the past 20 years. There are 8 of them, but most of them are low-level and high-level true treasures. There's only one top-tier true treasure. What else do you want? I haven't obtained a single top-grade true treasure in the past 20 years. I've only obtained 2 high-grade true treasures and 1 low-grade true treasure, said the Temporal Temple Master unhappily. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you're a little luckier than me. You've obtained at least 1 top-grade true treasure. It's not bad. Jian Wushuang just smiled. There were too many supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. It was terrifying. In the short span of 20 years, there were countless supreme treasures born in the Red Cloud world. Naturally, these supreme treasures were also obtained by the surrounding cultivators. As for how much they got, it depended on their strength and luck. Among them, luck was very important. In the past 20 years, for example, Jian Wushuang only got one top-tier universe supreme treasure at the beginning, and then he got one advanced universe supreme treasure and two elementary supreme treasures. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master was incredibly lucky. In just 20 years, he had obtained a total of 8 universe true treasures, including top-tier true treasures. Don't worry, the Red Cloud world will be open for 10,000 years. Although there will be more true treasures in the beginning, there will be more in the future. With our strength, I'm afraid we'll be able to gain a lot after 10,000 years. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master said. That's true. It's been 10,000 years. It's only been 20 years. It's still very early. Temporal Temple Master laughed. In the past 20 years, not a single supreme true treasure has been born in the Red Cloud world. It seems that only 2 supreme true treasures have been born. The 3 of them roamed the Red Cloud world, while Taoist Shen God sat in the Star Palace, gathering intelligence for them. In the past 20 years, Taoist Shen God had informed them of the number of supreme treasures and supreme true treasures that had been born in the Red Cloud world. Thus, they knew that in the past 20 years, only 2 supreme true treasures had been born in the Red Cloud world. The number of supreme true treasures born in the Red Cloud world has always been low, but there are many of them. However, later on, the number of supreme true treasures that are born will greatly decrease, but the quality will increase. In the future, the supreme true treasures that are born will usually be at least high-grade, and very few low-grade true treasures will be born, said the Temporal Temple Master. As long as they are in front of us or we have a chance to get them, we should not let them go. Although they are useless to us, they are very useful to our principal's masters. If we get a lot of them, we can take them to the 9 Emperor Pavilion and exchange them for some high-level treasures, said the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. 9 Emperor Pavilion? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. What is this 9 Emperor Pavilion? You don't know? The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was surprised. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Ha! My dear Heavenly Sword Marquis, you haven't been in the universe battlefield for a long time. In addition, you rarely have the opportunity to contact the 9 Emperor Pavilion. So Shen God and I didn't tell him about it, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. I see. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master understood. Then, he continued, the 9 Emperor Pavilion is an extremely ancient and powerful force. It is said that the nest of the 9 Emperor Pavilion is in the deepest part of the universe. Furthermore, it is an ruler. Its force is spread throughout every corner of the universe. For example, this star field that we are in can only be considered as a corner of the universe. Even so, there is still a 9 Emperor Pavilion in this star field. The 9 Emperor Pavilion does not compete for rulery or participate in the fight between the forces in our star field. They are not even interested in the endless opportunities in the 3 battlefields of our star field. They only do business. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said with a smile. Business? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes, to put it bluntly, the 9 Emperor Pavilion is a large-scale trading place. If you have powerful or special treasures that you don't need, you can put them in the 9 Emperor Pavilion and entrust them to sell or exchange for you. At the same time, you can use your own things in the 9 Emperor Pavilion to exchange for the treasures in the 9 Emperor Pavilion. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master continued to explain. If we get enough treasures in the Red Cloud world, we can go to the 9 Emperor Pavilion and exchange them for higher-level treasures. For example, you can exchange a dozen top-tier treasures for a top-tier treasure. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and then asked, does the 9 Emperor Pavilion have all kinds of treasures? Well, not really. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master shook his head. If it were the 9 Emperor Pavilion in the deepest part of the universe, it would have everything. However, we can't guarantee that the 9 Emperor Pavilion in our star field has all kinds of treasures. However, we can be sure that the 9 Emperor Pavilion has many supreme true treasures, not just one or two. As long as you pay a high price, you can go there to exchange for the supreme true treasures. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you asking if the 9 Emperor Pavilion has the ice heart glazed jade? Temporal Temple Master suddenly asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had just found out about the existence of the 9 Emperor Pavilion. According to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, since the 9 Emperor Pavilion was so powerful, it might have the ice heart glazed jade. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I can tell you that the 9 Emperor Pavilion does not have this ice heart glazed jade. The Temporal Temple Master said seriously, because when I found out that you needed the ice heart glazed jade, Xian God sent someone to the 9 Emperor Pavilion to inquire about it. What's the result? Jian Wushuang asked. The 9 Emperor Pavilion said that there is no ice heart glazed jade in this star field. However, as long as they are given 3 supreme true treasure armors, they can get one from other territories, but it will take a longer time, Temporal Temple Master said. How long will it take? Jian Wushuang asked. I can't guarantee it, but it's said to be within 500,000 years, Temporal Temple Master said. 500,000 years? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He did not care about 3 pinnacle true treasure armors. He had killed 3 rulers in the divine beginning realm. He had obtained 4 pinnacle true treasure armors from them, and even 1 supreme true treasure from each of the 3 rulers. He had also obtained 3 supreme true treasures, although they were all offensive. Could be said that he now had a very rich family. He could even afford 3 supreme true treasures, not to mention 3 supreme true treasure armors. The key was that it would take too long for the 9 Emperor Pavilion to get one from other territories. Although it was within 500,000 years, he was sure that it was not a short time. It would take at least 300,000 to 400,000 years. It was still too long for Jian Wushuang. Phew! He exhaled lightly and gradually regained his calm. Although it's a long time, it's at least a way. After I leave the Red Cloud world, I'll go to the 9 Emperor Pavilion myself. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He flipped his hand and took out a token. This token belonged to one of the 3 Freedom Alliances, a Principles Master of the Heaven Ancestor Taoist field. Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances were on the same side. During their adventure in the Red Cloud world, Star Palace and the experts of the 3 Freedom Alliances exchanged messaging tokens with each other. Star Palace and the experts of the 3 Freedom Alliances who entered the Red Cloud world also had Jian Wushuang's messaging token. They could directly communicate with Jian Wushuang. At this moment, it was the Principles Master who sent him a message. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I'm Ice Dust Master of the Heaven Ancestor Taoist sect. I'm on the 3rd continent, and there's a pinnacle true treasure armor in the void where I am now. Ice Dust Master's anxious voice came from the token. Pinnacle true treasure armor? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had been in the Red Cloud world for 20 years, and he had already figured out his current location. He was on the 3rd continent. After figuring out his location, he instructed all the experts of Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances on the 3rd continent to inform him immediately if they discovered the birth of a pinnacle true treasure. He would rush there as soon as possible. There was a supreme true treasure armor in the void where Ice Dust Master was. In the past 20 years, only 2 supreme true treasures have been born in the Red Cloud world, and they are only offensive weapons. Now, a supreme true treasure armor has been born, and it happens to be on my 3rd continent, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Tell me your current location, and I'll rush over immediately, Jian Wushuang instructed. Ice Dust Master immediately told Jian Wushuang where he was. After comparing the star map, Jian Wushuang immediately determined the distance between him and Ice Dust Master. Damn! There's a distance of 16 million miles between us. No wonder I didn't sense the aura of the supreme true treasure armor, Jian Wushuang thought. When a supreme true treasure was born, there would usually be a big commotion, especially when the aura of the supreme true treasure was spread over a wide area. When a supreme treasure was born, the commotion would be even greater, but the commotion would not travel more than 16 million miles. A supreme treasure will be born longer than an ordinary high-level or top-tier supreme treasure. It will take me a while to cover the distance of 16 million miles. I hope I can make it in time. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate, he set off immediately. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master also knew that Jian Wushuang was going to the place where the true treasure was born. They all sent messages to him. Good luck, my heavenly sword Marquis. If he could teleport or time-space teleport, Jian Wushuang would have arrived at the place within 16 million miles in an instant. Unfortunately, in the Red Cloud world, there was no way to teleport. Jian Wushuang could only rely on his own speed. Took him some time to get there. By the time Jian Wushuang arrived, the pinnacle true treasure armor had completely appeared. The fight for it had already begun. The pinnacle true treasure armor had now fallen into the hands of a principal's master named Ci Hong. Ci Hong Master was an expert at the pinnacle of the 6 realms of the void. He was extremely powerful. During the fight, he had used his tyrannical strength to seize the pinnacle true treasure armor from many experts. However, even though the pinnacle true treasure armor had fallen into his hands, the great beings around him did not intend to let Ci Hong Master off just like that. One had to know that for Principal's Masters, a top-tier universe true treasure was enough for them to fight madly for it. As for pinnacle true treasures within the star domain, there were only a handful of Principal's Masters who had pinnacle true treasures, and almost all of them were only offensive weapons. A top-tier true treasure armor would make even a ruler realm expert envious, let alone a Principal's Master. Because of this, even though they knew that Ci Hong Master was not to be trifled with, the surrounding Principal's Masters still rushed forward to kill him. As for Ci Hong Master, although he was powerful, he did not have a very good escape technique. Faced with the siege of many experts, he could not break out immediately, which gave Jian Wushuang a chance to participate in the fight. When Jian Wushuang appeared on the battlefield, the Principal's Masters were fighting each other, and Ci Hong Master was already red-eyed from the battle. In a short period of encirclement, he had killed 3 Principal's Masters with his overwhelming strength, but he had also consumed a lot of his divine power. Let's end it here, Jian Wushuang said coldly, and he appeared directly in the center of the battlefield. At the same time, a terrifying divine power spread out and pressed down on the entire battlefield. Although Jian Wushuang did not use his full strength, this divine power was still far beyond that of an ordinary Principal's Master. The Principal's Masters on the battlefield were shocked. They all stopped moving. Ci Hong Master, hand over the pinnacle true treasure armor. I won't make things difficult for you. Jian Wushuang looked at Ci Hong Master calmly with his hands behind his back. Blood Sword Master? Ci Hong Master looked at Jian Wushuang, who appeared in front of him with an extremely ugly expression. In terms of strength, he was indeed very strong. Even among the ultimate experts of Principal's Masters, he was barely qualified to be in the top 10. It could be said that with such strength, he could almost walk unhindered among the Principal's Masters. However, there were still 2 Principal's Masters who were enough to make him fear. One of them was Blood Saber Emperor, and the other was Blood Sword Master. Among them, Blood Saber Emperor had been famous in this star field for a long time. He had been regarded by many people as the strongest Principal's Master in this star field, and his strength was very close to that of a ruler. As for Jian Wushuang, although he had not risen for as long as Blood Saber Emperor, his battle record was even more terrifying than that of Blood Saber Emperor. He had defeated 5 experts of the pinnacle of the 6th realm and killed one of them. In one battle, he directly replaced Blood Saber Emperor and became the strongest among the Principal's Masters in this star field. Both of them were far stronger than him in terms of strength. Normally, if he were to fight Blood Sword Master, he would choose to retreat without hesitation. But now he had no way to retreat. If he did not hand over the pinnacle true treasure, Blood Sword Master and the other Principal's Masters would not let him go. But he could not give up the pinnacle true treasure. How could he give up the pinnacle true treasure armor, which even a ruler realm great being would fight for? Even if you're Blood Sword Master, even if you're stronger than me, the true treasure armor has already fallen into my hands. If you want it, You'll have to see if you have the ability to do so, Ci Hong Master roared. A monstrous wave of qi swept up from his body. He did not choose to fight head-on with Jian Wushuang. Instead, he rushed to one side of the void. But the moment he moved, buzz! A weak sword light caught up with him and entered his body. Ci Hong Master's body trembled, and fear appeared in his eyes. More than 90% of his divine power was destroyed in an instant, and his aura became extremely weak. Ci Hong Master, hand over the true treasure armor. Otherwise, I won't hold back next time. Jian Wushuang's cold voice sounded again. Ci Hong Master turned his head stiffly. He looked at Jian Wushuang. His eyes filled with unwillingness and disbelief. He was unwilling to hand over the supreme true treasure armor just like that. He was in disbelief because of the strength Jian Wushuang had shown. It was too powerful. A tiny sword light entered his body and instantly destroyed 90% of his divine power. This was even when Jian Wushuang had held back. If he did not hold back, that tiny sword light would have killed him. How is this possible? How can the Blood Sword Master be so strong? Ci Hong Master was completely shocked by Jian Wushuang's strength. Although Jian Wushuang had the battle strength of a ruler or even an advanced ruler, few people in the outside world knew about his battle strength. Most people still knew about Jian Wushuang when he defeated 5 experts of the pinnacle of the 6th realm in Devil Smoke Valley alone. At that time, Jian Wushuang was invincible among the principal's masters. Although Ci Hong Master knew that he could not defeat him, he was confident that he could hold on for a while. He even had a chance to escape from Jian Wushuang. However, she did not expect that Jian Wushuang's real strength was much stronger than before. Master, Blood Sword Master definitely has the battle strength of a master. He can kill me with a raise of his hand. Blood Sword Master's heart turned cold. Why? Are you still unwilling to hand it over? Jian Wushuang frowned. He had already given Blood Sword Master a chance. If the latter did not know what was good for her, then he could not be blamed. Blood Sword Master, you win. Ci Hong Master smiled bitterly. In the face of absolute strength, he had nothing to hold on to. If he continued to hold on, he would simply be courting death. Ci Hong Master exhaled lightly and prepared to take out the supreme true treasure armor and hand it to Jian Wushuang. The surrounding principal's masters only watched this scene, but no one came forward to stop him. Although they were full of desire for the supreme true treasure armor, no one dared to snatch it from Jian Wushuang. But at this moment, whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in the void beside them. As soon as this person appeared, an extremely powerful aura, far superior to that of the principal's masters present, spread out. Sensing this aura, the experts present were all shocked. Ruler! A ruler has arrived. Immediately, many eyes turned to look at the figure. Ci Hong Master also stopped what he was doing and looked over. A middle-aged man in a white robe was floating there calmly. He frowned slightly as he looked at the void in front of him. Ruler Wu Qing. It's Ruler Wu Qing. The surrounding principal's masters had already recognized the person. So it's Ruler Wu Qing. He's also on the 3rd continent. Jian Wushuang's lips curled into a playful smile. He had met the ruler of the Black Cloud World at the entrance of the Red Cloud World. At that time, the ruler of the Black Cloud World was still in awe of him. Later, when they entered the Red Cloud World, everyone spread out. The ruler of the Black Cloud World had come to the 3rd continent just like Jian Wushuang, and now they had met. Jian Wushuang did not care about the arrival of the ruler of the Black Cloud World. However, the surrounding principal's masters all had strange expressions on their faces. For these principal's masters, when Jian Wushuang appeared in the void, it meant that the supreme true treasure armor had nothing to do with them, especially when Jian Wushuang revealed his terrifying strength. He had severely injured Ci Hong Master in an instant, and the surrounding principal's masters no longer had the slightest desire to fight over it. Even Ci Hong Master had intended to hand over the supreme true treasure armor to Jian Wushuang. But at this moment a ruler realm expert was present. This was interesting. After all, the pinnacle true treasure armor was still in Ci Hong Master's hands. Ci Hong Master was at a loss and did not know what to do. He held the pinnacle true treasure armor, looked at Jian Wushuang, then looked at ruler Wu Qing beside him. For a moment, he did not know who to give the pinnacle true treasure armor to. If he gave it to Jian Wushuang, what would happen to the master next to him? If he gave it to the master, Blood Sword Master, who was right in front of him, would be angry enough to kill him in an instant. Ci Hong Master was at a loss as to who to give the supreme true treasure armor to. Jian Wushuang was the first to speak. Master Wu Qing, are you here to fight with me for the supreme true treasure armor? Pinnacle true treasure armor? Master Wu Qing's pupils shrank, but he immediately relaxed. He smiled faintly and said, Blood Sword Master, you misunderstood me. I only came here because I sensed the movement in the void. Since you came here first, and the pinnacle true treasure armor is about to fall into your hands, I have nothing to fight for. After all, there must be a first come, first served basis. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. The surrounding principal's masters looked even weirder. In the Red Cloud world, there was no such thing as a first come, first served basis for the fight for a supreme treasure? What a joke. Since the fight has come to an end, I'll take my leave. Master Wu Qing ignored the doubts of the surrounding people and turned to leave. Soon, ruler Wu Qing disappeared from everyone's sight. This scene shocked all the principal's masters present. How can this be? Ruler Wu Qing is leaving just like that. He left without even thinking about the fight. Since when did this ruler Wu Qing become so easy to talk to? Could it be that ruler Wu Qing is afraid of the Star Palace behind Blood Sword Master? That's not right. Although the Star Palace is a large force, it's not so powerful that no one dares to provoke it like the North Sea Palace. This ruler Wu Qing shouldn't have to worry about the Star Palace at all. Or could it be that ruler Wu Qing knows that Blood Sword Master is powerful, and he can't do anything to him, so he can only leave? But that pinnacle true treasure armor hasn't fallen into Blood Sword Master's hands yet. The surrounding principal's masters obviously could not understand ruler Wu Qing's actions. They also could not understand why ruler Wu Qing would leave without even thinking about fighting for it. After all, it was a supreme true treasure armor, which was enough to make many rulers jealous and fight for it. The only one who was not surprised by the ruler's departure was Jian Wushuang himself. Haha! You were quite sensible. Jian Wushuang smiled secretly. He knew why the ruler left. Apparently, the latter did not want to fight with him for a supreme true treasure armor. It's just a pinnacle true treasure armor. It's not a supreme true treasure. I don't need to provoke Blood Sword Master for such a true treasure. Otherwise, not only will I be able to get it, but if I offend Blood Sword Master, not only will my secret be exposed, but Blood Sword Master can ally with the rulers of Star Palace to kill me and even my true body. Once they target me, I won't be able to escape. Master Blackie had a clear idea. If it was a supreme true treasure, he had to use it for himself, or a supreme true treasure that could tempt him. Only then would he have a chance to fight Jian Wushuang. Otherwise, he would never dare to provoke Jian Wushuang. Once Master Blackie left, there was no longer any suspense in the fight. Ci Hong Master handed the supreme true treasure armor to Jian Wushuang. After checking it, Jian Wushuang found that although the supreme true treasure armor was indeed at the level of a supreme true treasure, in terms of quality, it was still inferior to his Blood Demon Cave armor. He certainly would not use this true treasure, but he could use it to exchange for other true treasures in the Nine Emperor Pavilion in the future. It was already a great harvest for him to get a supreme true treasure armor in 20 years. The fight for the supreme true treasure in the Red Cloud world continued. In a flash, another 50 years had passed. In these 50 years, there were already 12 supreme true treasures in the Red Cloud world, most of which were attack treasures. Jian Wushuang had only gotten one supreme true treasure armor, another pinnacle true treasure, which was even more valuable in terms of soul attacks, had been obtained by a ruler. The vast land was blood-red. Hum! A faint sound of a blade was heard. In the void space in front of them, a purple saber was floating quietly. An aura of an advanced universe true treasure emanated from the saber. The moment the purple saber was completely born, more than a dozen principal's masters who had been waiting around instantly swarmed over. But suddenly, a vast temporal energy swept out like ripples. All the principal's masters who were charging at the purple saber were greatly restricted by the temporal energy, and their speed was greatly reduced. Then, under everyone's gaze, a ghost-like figure appeared next to the purple saber, and with a wave of his hand, he put the purple saber into his interspatial ring. Seeing that the purple saber had been taken away by the other party, the 10 principal's masters were momentarily shocked and angry, but then they looked helpless, because they had clearly seen the person who had taken the purple saber. That was Blood Sword Master, the acknowledged strongest existence among the principal's masters of this star field. When the purple saber fell into Blood Sword Master's hands, they had no chance to fight for it. Suddenly, the 10 principal's masters began to disperse. Jian Wushuang was about to leave, but a figure rushed toward him. Well, Jian Wushuang looked at the person who appeared in front of him. Tianhen, greetings, Blood Sword Master. The person said respectfully. Divine Master Tianhen, what's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Jian Wushuang knew Divine Master Tianhen. He was a strong expert at the pinnacle of the 6 realms, so he was not qualified to compete with him for the supreme treasure. Well, I have a good friend who wants to meet you, Blood Sword Master, so he asked me to ask you to wait here for a while, Divine Master Tianhen said. Oh? Someone wants to meet me? Jian Wushuang looked strange. Who's your good friend? Well, you'll know when he arrives, Blood Sword Master, Divine Master Tianhen said with a smile. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and said, Okay, I'll stay here for a while, but I'll only wait for an hour. If your good friend doesn't arrive in an hour, I'll leave. Don't worry, my good friend came to the 3rd continent 10 years ago when he heard that you were there. He's not too far away from us now. He'll arrive in an hour at most, the Divine Master Tianhen said. Then I'll wait, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. He did not know who the good friend the Divine Master Tianhen was talking about was, but he had absolute strength. He was not worried that the Divine Master Tianhen would plot against him. Just as the Divine Master Tianhen had said, his good friend soon arrived. He wore blood-red hair and a blood-red robe, and carried a blood-red demonic saber on his back. He looked very young. When he arrived in the void, he immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Blood Saber Emperor, so it's him? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He already knew why the other party was looking for him. Jian Wushuang also knew about Blood Saber Emperor. Before he rose to power and was recognized as the strongest principal's master among the experts in the star field, the strongest principal's master in the star field was Blood Saber Emperor. Blood Saber Emperor's battle strength was very terrifying. He had defeated 3 experts of the pinnacle of the 6th realm by himself, and that was many years ago. Over the past hundreds of thousands of years, the Blood Saber Emperor rarely fought. No one knew how strong he had become, but he was definitely stronger than before. In addition, the Blood Saber Emperor's saber technique was very famous in this star field. Blood Sword Master, nice to meet you. The Blood Saber Emperor stared at Jian Wushuang and greeted him politely at the beginning. Blood Saber Emperor, I've heard a lot about you. Jian Wushuang smiled. I asked Tianhen to come out and ask you to wait for me here, Blood Saber Emperor said. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded. If I'm not wrong, you want to see me so badly. You must want to fight me, right? Yes. Blood Saber Emperor did not try to hide anything. I saw the mirror image of you fighting with Blood Saber Emperor and the other 5 experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. You are indeed very strong. Even I don't have much confidence in fighting you. I also know that you haven't cultivated for a long time. It has been more than 10,000 years since the battle, so you should be stronger. Although I know that your strength is above mine, I still want to fight you face to face. The Blood Saber Emperor licked his lips, his eyes filled with the desire to fight. I understand. Jian Wushuang smiled. It was normal for him to want to fight even though he knew that his opponent was stronger than him. Many people in the world were like this. Even Jian Wushuang, when he met an expert of the same level who was stronger than him, knew that he was not his opponent, but he still wanted to fight him. Should we fight now? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, it's not easy to meet you in the Red Cloud world. It's a rare opportunity. Of course, we have to seize it, Blood Saber Emperor said. Then you should fight, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Blood Saber Emperor narrowed his eyes and felt a little dissatisfied. Although he had admitted that Jian Wushuang was stronger than him, he was not that strong. He had given Jian Wushuang enough respect, but it seemed that Jian Wushuang did not care about him at all. Of course, the Blood Saber Emperor was displeased. In that case, be careful. The Blood Saber Emperor did not hesitate about Jian Wushuang's behavior. Instead, he chose to fight and speak with strength. Clang! A cold light flashed, and the blood-red charming saber behind Blood Saber Emperor was unsheathed. It was not only extremely cold, but also extremely powerful. It was a supreme treasure saber. Blood Sword Master, draw your sword, Blood Saber Emperor shouted in a low voice. I don't need it for the time being. Jian Wushuang shook his head slightly. Arrogant. Blood Saber Emperor was immediately furious. A surge of majestic divine power burst out, and he held the saber with both hands at the same time. Whoosh! The saber slashed out, and in an instant, a mighty blood-red saber light swept out. The saber light was extremely dazzling and spread out in the void like a dazzling blood-red saber river. In the blood-red saber river, there was a suffocating and cold aura. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. The moment the blood-red saber river swept in front of him, he raised his hand and casually pointed at the void in front of him. It seemed to be an easy task, but a stream of sword essence immediately gathered in front of him. The sword essence spread out like a blooming lotus. Buzz! Under the impact of the sword essence, the blood-red saber river instantly collapsed. Countless divine power frantically swept out in the surroundings, creating a great disturbance in the world. It's so easy to break my saber skill? Blood Saber Emperor was shocked. Although that saber skill was not his strongest, it was still one of the top 3 saber skills he had created. In addition, he had used all his strength to burst out his own power to the maximum. After all, Blood Saber Emperor was a special life form. After a special life form reached the peak of the 6 realms, the divine power it released was far more powerful than that of an ordinary principles master. It was not much weaker than a ruler. Even so, Jian Wushuang still easily broke his saber technique. Blood Sword Master, it seems that I've underestimated you. Not only do you have a better understanding of sword principle than an ordinary principles master, but you're also not much weaker than me in terms of divine power, Blood Saber Emperor said seriously. Blood Saber Emperor, you'd better use your strongest skills and saber techniques, or you won't stand a chance, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. As you wish. Blood Saber Emperor did not waste any time. Layers of divine power surged out from his body, and an extremely powerful divine power aura that far surpassed that of a principles master burst out from his body. Blood Saber Emperor was a special life form, so his divine power was extremely powerful. Now, he had performed an extremely powerful secret skill that could increase his divine power in a short period of time. He had spent a lot of effort and money to obtain this secret skill in the deepest part of Crimson Stone Mountain. It was enough to allow his strength to reach a whole new level in a short period of time. With this secret skill and his special physique, he even dared to confront a ruler realm expert head-on for a certain period of time. Humph! With a cold snort, the air beneath the feet of the Blood Saber Emperor exploded. His figure appeared in front of Jian Wushuang as if he had teleported. The blood-red demonic saber in his hand flashed continuously like a real demonic charm. Whoosh! 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 The extremely cold saber light was incredibly fast as it slashed toward Jian Wushuang in all directions. An overwhelming pressure also pressed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was still very relaxed in the face of this overwhelming attack. He put one hand behind his back and casually used the other hand as a sword. Each sword seemed very casual, but there was a trace of the universe origin of sword principle in his swordsmanship, which clashed with the saber light of the Blood Saber Emperor.